1. You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Thank you, TCTV. Good evening. The time is now 6:30 p.m. I am interim chairperson Matthew Rivard, and I call this select board regular business meeting to order on this, the 26th day of March, 2025. If you are able, I ask you to please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to remind everyone that today's meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV Cable Station 8 and our YouTube web platform. For those of you who wish to revisit any part of our proceedings, the recording will also be available on our YouTube channel. We hope that you would subscribe to their videos. The chat area in our YouTube streams is considered the same as if comments are requested in person. They are allowed by the chair and must be by name and address. If there are any audience members that are going to record this meeting or plan to do so, I would ask you to please notify us now.
Steve Wendell, WGAW.
Gardner News. Thank you. Further, we would also ask our partners at TCTV to please inform the chair if any issues with the live feeds occur so that we may pause while they are remediated. I do have a full quorum this evening. Thank you. Welcome, board members.
Hello.
Also in the audience this evening, I would like to note that we do have DPW Director Robert Sosik. We have Parks and Recreation Commissioner Candace Graves. Town Moderator John Graves is here. Our Deputy Assessor Justice Graves is here. We also have some students here from Anna Maria College who are, as part of their coursework, are attending and observing a governmental meeting. So we welcome them and we wish them the best in their future endeavors. Our agenda tonight, along with other public documents, is available at www.templetonma.gov, the official website for town information. Here you can also subscribe to alerts for all public meetings and our town administrator's weekly report. For immediate updates, including emergency notifications, please enroll in the Code Red Alert system through our website or by calling 866-939-0911. This service is vital for staying informed on important and emergency matters. As chair, I maintain the discretion to modify tonight's agenda as needed and to manage time effectively, utilize personnel resources efficiently, and ensure public awareness. I reserve the right to rearrange agenda items to best accommodate our proceedings and honor our guests. If this is the first time you are attending a select board meeting, welcome. We are committed to serving the community with patience, fairness, and efficiency. We ask the same courtesy engagement from all of our participants this evening. Let's have a productive and respectful meeting. For those of us who are on Zoom, the Zoom rules of the road, as it were, a few comments for the guests that we have joining us. Please use video when possible, although if you are waiting for your agenda item, we ask that you please have your video off. Please use the mute feature when you are not speaking, although TCTV and the chair can place all on mute. It is easier to control your own button. If you wish to speak, you may raise your hand, use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or politely break in if you are only on the telephone. I don't believe we have anyone who's just on the telephone this evening. Everyone is video. If you wish to see materials shared in the screen, please request that of the chair. Please refer to which document you wish to see, and this will help everyone stay synchronized and be helpful to the viewing public. Only the chair and TCTV are able to share content or screens. I have delegated my ability to share content to Mr. Curry this evening if the request comes in. And upon that, we will begin with the regular business of the meeting. We will start with item 3 on the agenda, action Matthew Rivard's letter of resignation. I am not going to read it. It is public. It is a public record. It was given to the town clerk on the 15th of March, logged and duly sent out to the appropriate personnel. And also I made a release of it on my personal platforms on Monday the 17th as well. At this time, I would accept any discussion, and I would accept the motion at this point to accept the resignation.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Curry and a second by Mr. Toth to accept the resignation letter of Matthew Rivard that is effective at the end of the regular business meeting this evening. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Thanks for your service.
What did you say?
I said thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I echo that.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Young.
I just want to say that I'm sorry to see you go and thank you for your service.
Any other discussions or comments at this time? It is. Hearing none on the motion to accept the resignation letter of Matthew Rivard effective at the end of the regular business meeting today, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Bennett votes no. Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
With a heavy heart, I vote yes.
And I abstain from the vote. That vote goes down as 3 yes, 1 no, Mr. Bennett, 1 abstaining, Mr. Rivard, at 6:36 PM. We had put on the agenda a reorganization of the board today anyways, because at the last regular business meeting, Mr. Curry did resign as the chair, and that triggered the reorganization. So at this time, I will preside over that reorganization. We will reorganize the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk's positions. A note to nominate, anyone may nominate, we would ask for a second, and then I will ask if the person accepts the nomination. If we have multiple nominations for a position, I would go to a secret ballot for those, but if we have only 1 nomination for each position, I would just go to a roll call vote to confirm. At this time, I'll accept nominations for the position of chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry.
I nominate Mr. Tim Toth for Chair of the Select Board.
Second.
I have a nomination by Mr. Curry, seconded by Mr. Bennett for Mr. Toth to be the chair. Mr. Toth, do you accept said nomination?
I will accept the nomination.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations or is there any discussion on that nomination?
I'd like to nominate Jeff.
I have a nomination for Mr. Bennett as the chair. Do I have a second?
I am the clerk and I will, if possible, I'll stay in that.
All right, so you will decline that nomination?
Yes.
All right, understood. So Mr. Bennett has declined the nomination, his nomination to be the chair. Are there any other nominations to be chair or is there any discussion? Hearing none, we have 1 nomination, so we will go to a confirmation roll call vote. On the nomination for Mr. Toth to become the chair, Mr. Toth, how do you vote?
I will abstain since I'm the subject of the vote.
Mr. Toth abstains. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 4 yes, 0 no, with 1 abstention. Mr. Toth at 6:38 PM. Mr. Toth is the chair of the committee moving forward. Mr. Toth, I leave it to your discretion. If you want to take over at this time, I will let you take over at this time. If you would rather I complete this agenda because it is one that I created, I will do so as well. It's up to you.
I will let you continue as specified in the letter of resignation.
So to the end of the regular
To the
business.
end of the regular business meeting,
Very well.
Continuity of the meeting.
continuity of the meeting.
Very well. Thank you, sir, and congratulations.
Congrats, Tim.
I will now accept nominations for the vice chair.
I know Mr. Bennett expressed that he wanted to stay at clerk, but I'd like to make a motion for him to step up to vice chair. And I have a reason to nominate myself as clerk because I'm interested in revamping that position. So I'd like to be clerk because of I can ask later, but I'd like to be clerk for a particular reason that I put a lot of thought into.
Let's take the vice chair and then we'll continue. So I have a nomination for Mr. Bennett to be the vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a nomination by Ms. Griffiths, seconded by Mr. Toth for Mr. Bennett to be the vice chair. Mr. Bennett, do you accept said nomination?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett accepts the nomination. Are there any other nominations or any other discussion on the position of vice chair? Hearing none, there is 1 nomination. We will go to a roll call confirmation vote. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Abstain.
Mr. Bennett abstains. Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 4 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention. Mr. Bennett at 6:39 PM. I will now accept nominations for the positions of clerk.
I make a motion for Terry Griffiths to act as clerk.
I have a nomination for Ms. Griffiths to be the clerk. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a nomination by Mr. Bennett, seconded by Mr. Curry for Ms. Griffiths to be the clerk. Ms. Griffiths, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you.
Nomination is accepted. Are there any other nominations for the position of clerk? Hearing no other nominations, we have 1 nomination, so we will go to a confirmation vote. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Same.
Ms. Griffiths abstains. I vote yes as well. That vote is 4 yes, 0 no, with 1 abstaining. Ms. Griffiths at 6:40 PM. There is one other piece of business that we must attend to as far as the reorganization goes, and that is that I am the educational liaison, and obviously at the end of today's regular business meeting, that will end. So we need to nominate someone to be the educational liaison for the remainder of this term. The other committee positions would not be impacted because the other 4 members remain.
Only
2 months, month and a half, 2 months.
Mr. Chair, I'd nominate Jeff Bennett for liaison.
I have a nomination for Mr. Bennett to be the educational liaison. Do I have a second? And I have a second from Mr. Curry. Is there any discussion on that nomination? Or are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we have 1 nomination. We will go to a confirmation vote on the nomination for Mr. Bennett to be the educational liaison. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
abstain.
Mr. Bennett abstains. Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 4 yes, 0 no, with 1 abstention. Mr. Bennett at 6:41 PM. The reorganization of the board now being completed. We move on to action item 5, approval of the minutes of prior meetings. We have in front of you the minutes from Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. I will note that the board, I did have Kelsey add to the minutes. Did you add it at the end, or did you add it at the point closest to when the
Closest to when it happened.
closest to when it happened? I did forward you a note that I asked Kelsey to add to these minutes at the point closest to when it happened. We did have a slight Zoom or a slight
Yeah.
an outage on the live streams 2 weeks ago. Zoom was not impacted. YouTube and cable were. And I wrote in some language to ensure that we were covered with regards to that particular outage. I sent that to the board via email and copied the ITA and Kelsey on that, so that it would be included. I don't believe that language is in your packet because it came after I had the packet was placed out. So I would ask that, if there would be a motion to accept the minutes from the 12th of March as amended in that respect.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion by Ms. Griffiths and a second by Mr. Curry to accept the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 as amended to include the information on the TCTV outage. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to accept the minutes of March 12th, 2025 as amended, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 6:44 PM. We have no executive session minutes to approve this evening. We now move to citizen input. May I ask how many citizens would like to give input this evening? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the select board operating policies does state 3 minutes apiece to a maximum of 20 minutes. We should be okay. So I would just get Mr. Curry, if you could just keep the timer. Just keep a timer just so we make sure we don't go too far over. Whoever wants to go first. All right. When you come to the microphone, again, please name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, you get this one. I get the high. It's you, isn't it? All right. And if you could please pass these out, and there's enough for everybody and for minutes. I'll take whatever's back. All right. Thanks.
Before you begin, I would just like to note that, so name and address first, please.
Yes, Liz Toth, Gray Road.
Thank you. And I would just like to note that Ms. Toth has presented to the board to be included in the meeting minutes, an email with multiple questions that she has asked or is going to ask anyways. Ms. Toth,
Okay, all right.
go ahead. Thank you.
I'll make it really quick, as quick as I can. First of all, I am very saddened by your departure. I wish you hadn't done what you did. I get it. I understand, but just publicly, I'm sorry that you're gone. Okay, starting with that. Now, into my normal routine here.
Okay.
For that
All right,
time.
so. It's my routine. So coming up later on, is an item on reimbursement of legal fees for former town administrator. And I don't know if I'll be able to talk later on, so I'm doing it now.
Yep.
Basically, I've read his contract. And based on, now, I'm not an attorney, based on my personal, non-attorney, non-professional, if you choose to reimburse his 2,000 some odd dollar, whatever, I consider that a gift to him. Because under the contract, he's not entitled to it, at least how I understand the contract. So moving on from that. The next thing is I am not going to go through this in detail. I am just going to highlight a few things for anybody in the audience who wants to know. I went through this weekend and looked at the February budget versus actual question, budget versus actual, and I had a bunch of questions. I'm only going to highlight a few of them. And the rest we can go forward some other time. There's some things that were just some discrepancies between the budget book and what the actual budget said. So I don't know where it went wrong, but it did. The budget book account for developmental services seems to increase from 191,500 to 231,500. Then we've got a purchase of services, sealer of weights and measures. All of the contracts are supposed to be on the website. I can't find it anyplace. Maybe I just missed it in the search. Not there. Can't find it. Next thing that really bothers me is Buildings and Grounds has 12 cell phones for a total of $624. That's to account 410.5110. And then the police department has also issued cell phones for $8,560. Huge. All right, I'm moving on. The next thing is the budget book and the BVA do not match when it comes to accounts for Parks and Rec. It's off. There's $451,452 that were no longer in the interest and principal and interest fees. Where did the money go? We've got a whole bunch of things that are in the negative balance. I don't know what the plan is to get those positive in the ledger section. And then the demo revolving account shows $11,456.53. There should be significantly more money in that since we actually sold the property involved and we need to be demoing more property. So, and then the last thing is where can I find the details and how the funds can be spent coming from the trust fund, which is at the very end of the B&A. That's it. Thank you. Hopefully I kept that short.
You did.
Yeah, Olive. Can I ask you to work with Melanie to refer those questions to where they need to go? Be it to either the department heads or if Melanie can answer them, the town accountant have her answer them
Sure.
directly, please. Thank you very much. Okay, who's next?
Hi. Candace Graves, Parks and Rec. Just want to tell everybody that tomorrow is closing for the registration for the girls softball. We're still looking for some 8Us, which is the 6 to 8 years old. And T-ball closes tomorrow as well. And you can find all of the information on the town website at templetonma.gov, Parks and Rec, under the commission. Also want to tell you that over the next few weeks, you'll see some changes in the park. Next week, Building and Grounds will be down there helping us out because our laborers and our budget don't come online until the following week. So they'll be down there doing some favors for us. Gilman Waite.
Okay.
They'll be at Gilman Waite doing some activities for us. And then when the laborers come up, and then we have a lot of plumbing things coming up because we're getting a mop sink, a hand sink put in. All of the fixtures, you have to go back on the flushers. We have that new section that we use for the cannon. So that's never been winterized. Last year was the first year because we discovered that we had it last year. So there's a whole process. So that's going to take what's going to take. So it's not going to happen right away, but knock on wood, we're hoping that the pickleball court will be open some point next week. That's the goal. If the weather, because that's one of our things that we talked about, me and Bob. And so we'll see what else we can get done next week weather provided. And then, like I said, our Parks and Rec employees will come up on the following week and do a lot of pickup, cleanup. But you won't see the new tractor for a while because it's still too wet out there. There has to be training with our employees, so that all that has to happen. So there's a lot going on in Parks and Rec that folks don't understand, but we wanted to let everybody know. And that's about it. Oh, and someone's passing this around. Am I supposed to sign this?
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
The
It's
CBG.
a sign-in sheet for this CDBG hearing, so if we just started circulating.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I just want to make sure. I didn't know what it was.
Thank
if
you.
I was supposed to sign it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. I had three more. Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Justice.
I didn't know what it was.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you. All right.
For the record, I just want to note that the Justice Graves, the deputy assessor, has handed out informational for his comments. So those are to be added to the presentation, or to the documents presented at the meeting as well.
Okay. All right, Justice Graves, Queen Lake Road. I'm speaking as the deputy assessor. So this is in relation directly to your action item under new business. Item number G, or item letter G, action revenues, review and revote. I did watch the end of the budget hearing as of last Saturday, and did hear some discussion regarding new growth estimates, and possibly raising them on the revenue sheets. What you have in front of you is the tax rate history going back to 2008, the amount of new growth that was approved, as well as what $1 on the tax rate raises. This is something that the Board of Selectmen usually always get with the tax classification information. But in this context, I thought it was important to see the trends on that, because I want to highlight something that happened with my last quarterly report that I think is very pertinent right now. As of today, I only have 3 single-family homes within the context of fiscal year 2025 that have received occupancy. So what does that mean? Well, most of new growth, as most people probably may be aware, comes from when new buildings are created in town. That is, when something completely new pops up, that's, worth, on average over $300,000. That is a significant amount of new growth that gets added to the town. When there are not a lot of new construction in town, you tend to see a decrease in the new growth that is happening. I will tell you right now that the 3 that we had at this point last year, I had over 8 that had certificates of completion. And overall for fiscal year 24, in comparison to right now, I had 15 finishing out that year. And I don't anticipate that that's going to happen. And in terms of your revenue sheets, I don't anticipate that you're going to get much more than the 15,000 that's already been committed. And that doesn't mean that it's actually been paid yet. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And I know there was discussion because of what the assessors had recommended in comparison to what the town administrator had recommended, the 70,000 versus the 60,000. In terms of that, there are certain opinions on how that could draw out, but raising it up to the $100,000 amount that was discussed at that meeting, and that may not be what happens, but I just wanted to bring that to the forefront, I don't think would be, in my professional view, would be safe, and I don't think it would make a lot of sense. I can tell you, in doing a thorough review of I've already almost completed all of my new entries that all of the construction and things that we've picked up due to building permit visits and cyclical visits that happened last fall that we couldn't do until after January 1st. And in terms of all the new outstanding building permits that still need to be done, I don't see how it would go up to 100,000. Now that can change in the last few months. As most people would be aware, there is new legislation that came into effect with regards to accessory dwelling units. People are starting to inquire and pull building permits on those. But any new construction that's being pulled for building permits right now, if it's not completed by the time that we end this fiscal year, it will not be added onto fiscal year 2026's new growth. For example, the Baldwinville Elementary School is on your agenda tonight. Because of how much later it's being considered, I would not anticipate that being added into your new growth until fiscal year 2027 at this stage. So just be aware of that when making decisions on that. I will be here for the rest of the meeting when you get to that part if you have any questions, but I just wanted to bring that up during public comments. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Any more citizen input? The other Mr. Graves.
John Graves, Queen Lake Road. I'm here about, on the draft warrant, you have Article 6, which is a easement
Yeah.
for town property. There's some legal paperwork that, well, my first question is, I'm not quite sure how it actually got on the draft warrant. And the second thing is I have some documents here where people are trying to appeal the decision made by the Town of Templeton Conservation Commission. So with something like this going on in the town, I really don't think it should go on a warrant to have people vote on something when there's the potential that it could be overturned or, you know, it's the cart before the horse. And I just think that maybe you ought to reconsider and take Article 6 off of the warrant until any type of appeals are done, finished, just to make it, just to keep the process straightforward.
Mr. Chair, for you.
Current public comments, we're not, there's no
Yeah,
dispute. That's
so
okay.
I mean, that's all I'm asking you is to consider that
Yep.
there is an appeal process still going on. And that draft warrant, Article 6 is involved in this. And until it's really settled, I really don't think it should be put to town meeting vote, because how are people going to vote on something, pass it, and then you have the potential of it, you know, being overturned or it could turn into some legal issues for the town. As you all know, and I don't think we should be getting ourselves into that. Let's let the appeals happen, see what happens, and then if that's good, then put it on the warrant for people to vote on. But I don't think we should be doing that on that easement. And it's just something I don't like the fact that we're given an easement anyways, but the fact that it goes through wetlands, to me, is something we should really be looking at, and the process should be done correctly. And that's all I ask. Does anyone want to take this? And I don't have copies, but
Give it to the ITA, please, and understand something as well, John, that the warrant is not up for approval tonight.
right. I understand.
I believe that's gonna be the next regular business meeting.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have time, well, I'm not gonna say we, because but the board has time to review this and make a further decision on it.
Right,
Yeah.
that's
so
the
let's
reason,
just give it to-
that's the reason for tonight, so that
Yep.
you will have time to look at it and
I
see.
would give that to the, I'm sorry, Holly, the interim town administrator and let her include that in the background information for the next regular business meeting when they will discuss the.
All right,
approval
I
of the
thank you. I
warrant.
appreciate you for your time.
You're welcome.
And thank you for serving, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, they're gonna be there. Is there anyone else who wishes to provide citizen input at this time? All right. Hearing none, we move to administrator comment. Ms. Young.
As you know, this is my first regular business meeting. I just wanted to say thank you to the board for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to working with you all. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along, we are up to new business. We do not have any new introductions of new employees this evening. We do, however, have one appointment. We have a committee interest form in front of us for Jamie Coolidge as an associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Ms. Coolidge? You would like to come up? And if the board has any questions for you, we'll ask them now. If you'd like to just introduce yourself and give it a little bit of background, the board would appreciate it.
Sure. Jamie Coolidge, 75 Pill Factory Road. Worked in healthcare for the last 20 years. I do business operations right now for McLean and Princeton.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Coolidge?
I don't have a question, but Thank you for volunteering. You've got a bunch of stuff here to volunteer for, so really appreciate that.
Yeah, just looking to be involved.
Thank you.
Great. Time is a precious commodity, so you're sharing yours with the town. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's always great to see the folks willing to step forward and take on some of these charges and roles. And we've said it before, it's beating the dead horse, but it's worth repeating. It takes a village, and we have the village here in town. We truly do. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
You have the village warts and all.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry,
I move to appoint Jamie Coolidge to the Zoning Board of Appeals and as an associate member to a term expiring on June 30th, 2029.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Curry, a second from Ms. Griffiths to appoint Jamie Coolidge to the ZBA as an associate member to a term expiring on June 30th, 2029. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Bennett? Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining. At 7:01 PM, the appointment is made. Congratulations, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
All right, next item 8C is a public hearing, CDBG School Street Neighborhood Project. At this time, I would request a motion to enter into public hearing, CDBG School Street Neighborhood Project.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to enter into public hearing, CDBG School Street Neighborhood Project. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to enter into public hearing. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. We are in public hearing as of 7:02 PM. Brief note on the way these hearings are supposed to work. We would have somebody on behalf of the project come forward to present the reasons why and in favor, and then if there's anyone who is here to speak against, we would have them speak against. We would then return to the presenter with a final recommendation, and then we would move forward with a motion. So at this time, if there's anyone here to speak on behalf of the neighborhood project, I would ask them to please come to the hot seat or state theirs, come forward now. And again, please name and your position for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Linda Overing. I'm the grant administrator of Templeton's Community Development Block Grant for federal fiscal year 22-23. This hearing is a requirement of any grant, a community development block grant, that during the active progress of the grant, that a public hearing be held to solicit input from the public about the performance of the grant, pro, con, and also an opportunity for the participants in the grant to report back. Just let everyone know where we are with the project at this state. Just some quick background. The town applied for this grant in March of 2023, was awarded in July 2023, $1.35 million for an infrastructure project involving School, Cottage, and Vernon Streets. The project was developed in coordination with Municipal Light and Water because they were already planning the Maple Street Improvements Project. And it was an opportunity to coordinate with one contractor working on improvements for that entire neighborhood. The block grant focused on Cottage, Vernon, and School Street. School Street in particular, because knowing that the Baldwinville School project was in development, the town had to make certain upgrades to the infrastructure there to accommodate the increased use of the different uses of that building and just update it because it was old. And so the block grant was an opportunity to fund some of those changes that would be required. And so we have been coordinating not only with Municipal Light and Water, but also with the developers and understanding what their schedule was and making sure that work was done in a manner that they would not have to go back up and undo anything we did.
you know, if we were bringing a sewer line to the, or a new water service to the line, to the new property line, we knew where they would want it, et cetera. So our engineers, Ty and Bond, have done a lot of coordination with the developers. And indeed, there's some work in the scope of services that we added because there were things were not needed and we were not aware of, but as a developer has been finalizing their construction plans, they identified some additional infrastructure was necessary just for the school project. And they have given us that information. They've also provided the resources to pay for that additional work. With us tonight is Alex Bothelate from Ty and Bond, who has been the engineer on a project. He's attending via Zoom, and I think it would be best for him to kind of give you an overview of what the project has accomplished to date and what our schedule is for finishing it up.
The chair recognizes Alex Buffalo.
Yeah, thank you, board, and thank you, Linda, for the great introduction. So I'm Alex Buttelet. I'm the project engineer and project manager for the School Street infrastructure project in Templeton. So we've had the pleasure of working with the Municipal Light and Water as well as the town themselves, and Bob Sozik from the Highway Department, DPW. This project's kicked off, I'd say, in August, roughly of last year. We started off taking care of the water main on Maple Street. So as Linda mentioned, it's kind of a combination of two different projects. We just found it a good opportunity to try to combine these two and have a single contractor take care of all the work. So we started off over on Maple Street and worked our way over to School Street in Baldwinville and Vernon to take care of all of the water main. That was successfully completed and installed by the end of last year. We also started some of the drainage improvements on School Street, Cottage Street, and Vernon. Vernon and Cottage are mostly done. There's a little bit more work to be done there for drainage, and School Street is approximately half done with the drainage over there. So coming up this spring into the summer, essentially the project will be completed with the construction phase midsummer in June. There's still remaining drainage to be done on School Street. There's permanent trench repairs to be done on Maple Street in Baldwinville, where the roadway will not be totally resurfaced. Within the neighborhood itself of School Street, Vernon, and Cottage, we're proposing pavement reclamation, roadway paving, sidewalk installation, ADA accessible crosswalks, pavement markings, new signage, and then at the end of that, there's some loam and seed and some touch-up work to be done, which we refer to as punch list items or final cleanup. I do want to note that the original schedule did shift slightly at the beginning of the project. The water department had noted that there were some recent water main breaks down near Grove Street and Maple Street. So the contractor that was brought on board through a public bid process was very willing to help the town out and essentially shift their schedule to move over and take care of the more critical water main components on the project. So that's kind of why we ended up doing all the water main work first. So with that being said, there's still some work to be done this fall. This spring, and we're coordinating with the Baldwinville School development folks to ensure that the construction is not impeding their work, theirs isn't impeding ours. So we've had a good relationship to date in working with them, and we're looking forward to completing this project this summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe construction resumes next week.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we received that notification from your team, Bob? I think it was your team.
The notification is on the web.
Yep.
Yeah. and
Um,
I believe
yeah,
the water department would
Water
and delivered it to the residences in the area, so the residents would be aware.
Very good. Very good. Does anybody have any comments on the project at this point?
I just have a question. Scott, how do you think it's going?
I think it's going great. All the water main work got done last year. We've had zero issues with it, throughout the winter and stuff. With this winter being cold, with a lot of frost on the ground, it tends to move things. We haven't had any problems.
That was our water superintendent's harsh.
I do have a comment from the audience. If you would, I would ask you to please state your name and your address, please.
Larry Messer, 18 Vernon Street.
Thank you.
Saying that there's a shift in the dirt and stuff, end of my driveway sank down, and there's a gullet like that now. I don't know if it was from the fire hydrant being pulled or something, I don't know. Would that be fixed?
Yeah, our whole road is gonna get fixed, Larry.
Oh, it is?
Like they're gonna do all the pavement,
Yeah, I
recreate
just
it,
wondered
so
if it was
all the
that
drainage will be a lot
driveway.
better. Yes.
Okay, well, that's it. That's one question.
No, it's a valid question.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's a 100% valid question. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's actually, I believe, one of the reasons the engineers love it. If you can do a lot of the deep work one season, let the winter things settled, and then it's much better to give it that time, go through the freeze cycle, and then those things show up.
Okay.
And you can address it, so.
Excellent. Is there any other comments? The board or the audience?
I do just want to add one thing.
Go ahead.
So I know in my speech here, I mentioned Bob, and I just wanted to let everyone know that Scott has also been incredibly instrumental in this project, and Linda as well. So just kudos to the whole team in Templeton.
And Jeff, too.
And Jeff, yeah, Jeff is on the call. As so many people to mention.
Yeah, we did some sewer improvements it was part of the Baldwinville school project that Jeff helped us with down.
I would like to recognize Jeff Aldrich if he is on the Zoom call, if he has anything he'd like to add to the conversation before I move forward.
No, I have nothing to add.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the audience or from the board? Hearing no further comments, I would ask at this time for what your recommendation would be.
Well, I did include motions for an action item.
Yep.
So if everything goes according to plan, the physical construction will be done June 30th, which is currently the end date of this grant.
Okay.
But there is still some work that needs to be done primarily by our engineering firm that will go beyond that end date. Finish up the drawings, do the final pay rec, all that sort of thing. So they can't bill out 100% as of June 30th. So I'm asking that the board request the funder, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, to extend the grant until the end of September to allow those final closeout processes to happen.
Okay.
And included in that motion is what will happen once they approve that, then we would extend the contract with Ty and Bond. We would also extend the contract with me to manage the grant until its end and facilitate those closeout activities.
Okay.
That's why the long motion.
And that is the I assume that request is is in our packets. It's that item.
Well, that's
is.
the actual literal request. Yeah, that gets signed, but
Okay.
yeah, the motion, I think you had the motions in your motions packet.
And Holly, do you have that available for signature?
I do.
You do. Okay, good. All right, very good. All right. If there are no further comments, thank you for your presentation. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion to close the public hearing regarding CDBG School Street Neighborhood Project. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to close the public hearing. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The public hearing is closed as of 7:13 PM. We are now back in the regular business meeting. At this time, I would accept the motion. Regarding the grant.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry,
I move to submit a request signed by the Chair of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities to extend the federal fiscal year 22-23 CDBG to September 30th, 2025, in order to complete final payment and grant closeout tasks for the School Street Neighborhood Improvements Project, and pending EOHLC's approval of this extension. The second part, extend the performance period of Templeton's contract for the School Street Neighborhood Improvements Project with Ty and Bond Engineers to September 30th, 2025. And third part, extend the contract performance period of Templeton CDBG Administrator Breezeway Farm Consulting Incorporated to September 30th, 2025. And finally, authorize the interim town administrator to sign all contract documents associated with these extensions.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Curry and a second by Mr. Bennett as presented. Is there any discussion on said motion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion as presented by Mr. Curry, to request the grant extension for the CDBG School Street Neighborhood Project. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 7:15 PM. Thank you very much. And Holly, if you have that, I'll take that.
Okay.
You or me? The sign. Huh? Probably you. Okay, in that case, actually, Mr. Toth will take that to sign.
I think it's all of you.
Revise that because.
Oh, no, it is this, it is.
It's, oh,
It was done last week, so.
I can sign it. Give it to
Yeah,
me.
it's got your signature.
Give it to me. I can sign it.
You're legit.
Anyone who needs to sign the, do the signing sheet that you're in? Okay.
Labor 26, 03, 26, 2025. Okay. We can go back to Holly, please. Thank you. Right. 500. All right, moving to action item D, HCA agreements that Black Vines LLC. You have in your packet a draft host community agreement, and we have representatives here from Black Vines LLC. I'd ask you to please come to the station and again, introduce yourselves and
Black Vines LLC.
Good evening. My name is Christine Bailey. I'm an attorney representing Mr. Richardson.
Okay.
And I worked with outside counsel to negotiate the agreement.
is there anything you'd like to, is there anything that we'd like to present to us before we take it or turn it over to the board for discussion and to other, I believe, Attorney Holmquist, which is with town council, is with us. Is this one of the items you're with us for this evening, Ryan?
It is. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, so in that case, I'll leave it open to you first, and then we'll go to discussion by the board.
So I think Ryan did an excellent job of answering all the questions that I have. So I think we're all set.
Okay.
I know Mr. Richardson is looking forward to basically finalizing, getting his state license and being an important part of the community. So.
Richardson, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, I'm just looking forward to getting to know you guys and, say hello. Being an important part of the community is definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Any comments from any comments from town council on this?
No, so this is really, this HCA is very similar to the ones that the board executed back in December. We did receive some feedback from the Cannabis Control Commission on those, as you will see in the next agenda item. And so this HCA just incorporates that, which was, it was not that it said that feedback wasn't, I wouldn't consider it really substantive. It was, they want a different form of signature block and to reinsert the language about the community impact fee to make it clear that the town is not in fact collecting that, which was not the intent of the agreements as they were drafted before. So this would just make it more explicit. So no, no real new updates on this. So let me know if you have any questions.
Holly, I assume you have copies of these to sign again this evening?
I do. I just noticed that it's one representative, so if you want to authorize myself to sign.
Okay. We'll keep that as a note when we come to the motion. To the board, do we have any discussion? Is anyone have any discussion on this?
Curious question. Is this the one with the greenhouses from Maine? We had that company come before us a while back and they were planting, they had these special greenhouses from Maine.
No.
Says indoor cultivar.
Nope.
Just curious.
No.
Thanks.
Any other discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Curry.
So this HCA is for marijuana indoor cultivation,
And product manufacturing.
product manufacturing. Okay.
Just for context, there was a prior entity that had gone through this process and also the state licensing process. And Mr. Richardson purchased the property from them.
Got it.
So if it's ringing bells, there's, yeah.
That's why.
Neighbors connected?
The location.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful area.
You said is Dane or Zane?
Thing.
Zane, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see your full name there. Nice to
Hey.
meet you, Zane.
Any other, just any other questions or discussion items from the board on this particular HCA? No?
Brian answered it because it meets the
The CCC.
muster with the CCC.
In that case, hearing no further discussion, I'll accept a motion to approve the HCA between Black Pines LLC and the town of Templeton and for the town, and for the interim town administrator to sign.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the, to approve the HCA between Black Pines LLC and the town of Templeton and for the interim town administrator to sign the documents. Is there any further discussion?
I do have Ryan, is that, where it says duly authorized representative, is the interim town administrator good for that? Or would you rather the chair?
I think with a vote of the board, the interim town administrator is probably fine. The chair might, I mean, just to be cautious, since I don't know the answer off the top of my head, maybe.
Your motion, Mr. Curry.
I do.
The chair do so.
I feel better because it's a host community agreement, you know, it's like the chief exec, anytime there's a chief executive signature, we know that becomes the chair. The question is, we're voting on it tonight. Should we make it for the incoming chair? Tim, what are your thoughts on that? If I amend the motion, based on what town council is saying for the chair signature.
I think that would be a very good cautionary move. Just so we don't have this messed up at the CCC.
Right, okay, and should I say incoming?
Yes.
Okay, I would amend my motion to be the same, except the authorized signature would be the incoming select board chair.
I have an amendment. Do I have okay, so I have an amendment and a second. Since the motioner and the seconder have accepted the amendments, we'll pass it. So now we're voting on the motion as amended, to accept or to approve the HCA between Black Pines LLC and the town of Templeton and for the incoming chair to sign. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion as amended, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carey?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 7:23 PM. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And Mr. Toth, I believe the ITA has those papers available.
On the way.
Coming down. You are, sir?
Take that from my army side.
Okay. And on the same topic, we have item E, action 3 HCA agreements, Tempest Incorporated and Royal Sun Cannabis LLC and Bud Runner LLC. And this is also in your packet. And Damon?
Hello again.
All right, name and position for the record, please.
Damon Schmidt, Royal Sun Cannabis and Tempest and Bud Runner and Royal Sun Farm.
Okay.
Manager. Hi, I'm back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they rejected the HEAs you guys signed for the simple reason your titles were not underneath your signatures. So I'm
Really?
back here 3-4 months later, wasting more of my life.
No, no way.
So, yeah, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Obviously. But
Okay.
Let's make this.
That was really the only reason?
yeah, and
Wow.
what kills me is they approved 2 of them. And since it's not the same person looking, the third application, they caught it and rejected everything.
Oh,
But it's fine. It's life.
okay.
It happens.
All right.
Another couple months of my life gone.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry.
I move to, this is for both HCA agreements. I move
Yep.
to approve the HCA between Tempest Incorporated and the town of Templeton. And I also move to approve the HCA between Royal Sun Cannabis LLC and Bud Runner LLC and the town of Templeton, and for the incoming chair to sign.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion by Mr. Curry and a second by Mr. Bennett to approve the HCA's between.
I'm sorry to, Sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah,
can't
go
find
ahead.
the hand raise button, but before.
Sorry about that, Ryan.
Before
Can
you
I
vote,
finish
I just
reading?
want to,
Can I finish reading it back and then?
yes,
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion and a second to approve the HCA between Tempest Incorporated and the town of Templeton and the HCA between Royal Sun Cannabis LLC and Bud Runner LLC in the town of Templeton, and for the incoming chair to sign both documents. Ms. Holmquist, please go ahead.
I apologize. Sorry.
That's all right. Go for it.
You're so quick. I want to make sure you didn't vote before I
Please
pointed
tell me
out.
to be quiet at some point if that
I-
gets to be a problem.
I just realized the section 9 of the Royal Sun Cannabis and Bud Runner HCA still has that effective date back to December. So if you do approve, you might wish to amend that to make the effective date and the term current.
So it's in section 9 according to.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, effective date, term and termination. Look at that. Mr. Curry, would you please, would you care to amend your motion to state that effective date, term and termination will be, this agreement shall be in full force and effective beginning on March 26th, 2025, and it shall terminate on March 25th, 2029.
So moved.
So amended, or
So amended.
all right, so the mover has amended and the seconder has accepted, so those are taken. So we are now voting on the motion as amended to approve the HCA agreements between Tempest Incorporated and Royal Sun Cannabis and the town of Templeton, and Royal Sun Cannabis LLC and Bud Runner LLC in the town of Templeton, and again for the interim chair to sign as amended. Is there any further discussion on these two HCA's? Does that meet your, Ryan, does that meet your standard?
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. I'm glad you caught it. That was very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do we need to make sure those dates also align on the first one for the,
Are they wrong on the first one?
The first one should be okay.
okay.
That one's
There's
slightly
no
different.
date
Yeah, 'cause that
whatsoever
wouldn't be-
under section 9.
Section 9, I think for the first one is dated to the date of
Actually blank.
execution.
Date of the signatures, okay. I just
Yep.
want to make sure we don't get this delayed again.
Yeah.
Yes,
Glad you're coming back.
Thank you, Ryan.
thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the HCA between Tempest Incorporated and the town of Templeton and the HCA between Royal Sun Cannabis LLC and Bud Runner LLC in the town of Templeton as amended, and for the incoming chair to sign both agreements. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths? And I vote yes as well. That is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 7:27 PM. Thank you, Damon.
Don't forget the titles.
There's lines there. He'll do it. And Mr. Incoming Chair, there is the next package. Thank you. Okay, item F. Action re Baldwinville Elementary School sale. Provided to you in your boxes this evening was is the draft quitclaim deed. And Attorney Holmquist is here. Is there anyone here from the group that is developing the Baldwinville school to speak as well, or is it just Ms. Holmquist? I'm guessing it's just you, Ryan.
As far as I know, it's just me.
Okay, do you want to give us the background here so we know what we're getting into?
Sure. So this is really the culmination of the sale that was voted in 2020 and amended in 2024 at town meeting of the Baldwinville School land. We're aiming to close on April 1st. That has been pushed back a few times, but I expect it will happen on April 1st. This is a pretty simple deed. And the other item that you have, I believe, is the affidavit that the developer's title company requested. If you do have that.
Oh, it's in the packet.
Yep, we do.
Okay. So that's just a standard form of affidavit that title companies request. I've reviewed that. Everything in it is true. So I recommend signing that as well as the deed and then authorizing town council to execute such further instruments as may be necessary to effectuate the closing. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the closing, the deed, that you may have.
So I have one question, Ryan, and that revolves around my resignation is should I sign these or should I not?
Given that you're still on the board, you can sign. It won't affect the effectiveness of the deed. Particularly given you still have a majority vote regardless, or, if depending how the vote goes, but especially where you will, if you still have a majority vote.
Holly, I believe you have these available to sign this evening?
I do. Yep.
Okay. Any discussion from the board on this? This is the culmination of a lot of work. We've been waiting on this one. Any discussion from the board?
None.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the sale of the former Baldwinville Elementary School for the board to sign all related documents and to authorize town council to sign any other documents necessary to effectuate the closing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve the sale of the former Baldwinville Elementary School and for the board to sign all related documents.
And
Can you continue it? And to authorize town
And
council?
to authorize town council to further effectuate the contract as required.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second,
I have a motion from Mr. Toth and a second by Ms. Griffiths to approve the sale of the former Baldwinville Elementary School and for the board to sign all related documents and to authorize town council to sign any other documents necessary to effectuate the closing. Is there any further discussion on said motion? Hearing none on the motion, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
yes.
And I vote yes as well. That vote is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 7:31 PM. And Holly will pass around
Thank
everything
you,
for us to
Ryan.
John Hancock. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too, thank you. All right. Moving right along. Action item G, action revenues review and revote. You have in your packet the revenue sheets that was provided to us. Again, by the former town administrator with the budget books and previously approved. And again, Mr. Graves, the deputy assessor, is also here to discuss or to answer questions if we have any. I am simply going to facilitate this discussion. I will leave it to the board if they have any discussion items to, if they have any points of discussion they would like to make, just to please let me know and I will recognize you. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Curry and then Ms. Griffiths. Curry, Mr. Curry?
So expected real estate income is 12.9 for 26.
So, through the chairman.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I turned the propane down on the hot seat. It's not so bad.
That's what I'm most interested is, I know that we got the CIP, but
Justice Graves, Deputy Assessor. So when I decided to come to this meeting tonight, it was more to discuss it was more just in case there were questions about new growth or if there's anything about supplemental taxes. The other categories, not being the collector, not being the accountant, I would not be able to give you any information on that. I haven't had a chance to even talk with the accountant about it. I know that me and Holly had a discussion yesterday about some of the items on there, but we haven't had like a full finance meeting in response to that, nor do I know what direction the board was even, aiming to go at. In terms of the 12.9, before the tax rate setting, that would have came directly off of the fiscal year 2025 levy limit sheet. The former town administrator would have been the one to put it in there. I don't have it in front of me, but if you give me a minute, I can at least look at that. So that should have at least. Worst case scenario, I can just run into my office real quickly and pull some things up. Is that I was not.
Do you want to use my laptop, Justice? Would that help?
Let me pull what I've got for 2026. Maybe filing. Yeah, so where Adam would have gotten this from prior, the FY 2026 levy limit worksheet obviously is not completed. We're not in FY 2026 and we haven't done that tax rate setting yet. But if you do the way that it works is that the levy limit is a historical number. It feeds in from one year to the next. On the preliminary of that worksheet, it does have the number before any levy ceiling is determined yet to be 12,905,833 on the real estate side. That's not including what's going to end up being submitted on the DE forms, the debt exclusion forms, and any new growth. So that would be the 2.5% already figured out on that. So that looks right to me as far as I can tell. Other than that, like I said, I could only really speak to the new growth for the supplemental tax.
Okay. Questions or comments regarding the Griffiths or not?
I was just curious, you could explain the 60, 70 and $100,000.
So the through the chair, the $100,000 is what I had heard you as a board at least discussing in theory at the last meeting. I know that there was some discussion because of the prior years. Looking at the actuals from the last 5 years, yes, I couldn't completely understand why one would look at that and think that that is a safe bet to go for that. But looking at the entirety of the town's history and also going through my records as of what is going to potentially be submitted by the Board of Assessors going into fiscal year 2026, I don't think that that's an achievable goal. Now, could it happen? Yes, there's always the possibility that some of these other houses, and for reference, there's only 3 outstanding homes that I'm waiting for certificates of occupancy on that could be completed within fiscal year 2025 and go towards supplemental tax and go towards the new growth estimates. I would say more likely than not, only one out of those 3 is likely to be done. But any surprises can happen between now and June 30th. That being said, I don't see from the outstanding building permits that I need to inspect over the summer, from the remaining cyclical work that needs to be done, and from what I've already inputted through, and it's basically done. There's just a few odds and ends that I need to finish on all of the work that was done last year in 2024 for updates on property record cards. I don't see it going up to the 100,000 in years past. There, I have to look through forms of lists were due at the beginning of March. That's something that I usually go through in April to update all the property record cards on that. I've been looking at some of them early. There can always be things that get added from that. A lot of your personal property can add to your new growth, and historically it has in the town. But for it to, from what I'm seeing and because I constantly log it in as I do it, I see it, I put it into my spreadsheet and I file it away so that I know what's going on as we approach. I don't see that making any sense at this point. It's my professional opinion that that wouldn't happen, and it would set the town up for risk of, needing to make an adjustment at the fall town meeting.
So what I'm hearing is you're recommending 60,000, and believe me, I've been sitting here for 6 years and I still don't quite understand, but I know you do. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the difference in the figures. And how did the encumbered funds get affected? You remember we had the business meeting and you were talking about the encumbered funds that you have, is it unencumbered or encumbered, that you have to have every 5 years?
Okay.
Is that affected by this as well?
So realistically, if it's okay through the chair, what we're talking about, it wasn't encumbered funds. It was separate special town meeting articles regarding the revaluation,
Right.
allowing the assessors to
Have the money beforehand.
right, you have to have the money before you sign the contracts and before you do the bidding, because contractors won't allow, they won't engage in a contract with you. Under that, plus the work always starts before that fiscal year actually begins, and you want that to happen so that you can go through with that. In terms of the revenues, your new all of your revenues feed into the total budget. Between the 70 and the 60,000, that at this point, I would say is more of an opinion between myself and the Board of Assessors, and the former town administrator. He built the budget with the 70,000. So if you're going to change that down, you would have to find 10,000 someplace else, or you would have to reduce the general fund by 10,000 in anticipation of that. Because whatever you vote on town meeting for needs to fit within the general revenues and within the levy limit. If it doesn't fit, then the town can't set a tax rate. And there would have to be an adjustment at a future town meeting to fix that. So at this point, I don't agree with the 70,000, but again, as with certain items that it could be doable, I would say it is more likely that you would get 70,000 in new growth this year, based on your prior year activities, than it would be that you would get 100,000 given what I'm seeing. And again, things can change within the next few months because of the accessory dwelling units, but with those being so new and with people just starting to ask questions and pull building permits on those or looking to do so, I don't know what that will do in terms of new growth. Because accessory dwelling units are not quite going to be the value of a new single-family home, but they are new construction that will be added throughout the town when those start being built, just so that people are aware of that. But I would defer any questions on, how that's going with the building department. I haven't had any conversations with them going onto this lane as of right now, but I just wanted to mention that in full
To
transparency.
make sure I heard you correctly. It was recommended 70,000, but there's talk of 100,000. 70,000 is somewhat of a stretch, but more doable. 100,000 might set us up for a fall town meeting problem. So where did the 100,000 come from? I don't quite.
Budget hearings, it was at the end of our budget hearings,
Yeah.
the number had been tossed around as
But it's not in fact. It's
No.
not in stone, but the 70 is, and it's more doable than, but you'd prefer.
I believe, your office recommended 60.
Correct.
Yes,
I
The
got
town
it.
administrator's budget recommended 70.
yes.
Okay, and like I said, we tossed around 100 at the budget hearings.
But that's not even.
As of right now, what's in the budget book is 7.
Yes, and you had actually voted on your revenues. Sorry if I'm cutting you off.
No,
Mr. Chair. Okay.
you're fine.
Okay, you had actually voted on your revenues before the Board of Assessors typically votes on new growth plus the revaluation article plus their budget for the year at their meeting in December. By that point, I had conversations with the former town administrator, and he had brought the 70 to you, because one was, the revenues are approved usually fairly early into the process. It was updated on the 1st of 2025, but I believe that you had formally voted on these sometime, I want to say in either October or November, if I remember correctly. Which is typical that, I'll have a conversation with the town administrator about new growth, supplemental, and, if there's anything else that I'm seeing on this, I'll have a conversation with him. But, that's the number that was put forward. That's the number that the budget is built with. If you were to make a change like that, I don't know how the budget is structured like that since I'm not the drafter of that, so.
Any other questions from the board, Mr. Bennett?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that, back in March of 2021, Templeton had a financial review from the Department of Revenue. And a couple of the things that they recommended was for the Board of Assessors to annually vote to authorize or approve overlay and new growth estimates, which they did December 10th, 2024. The other thing was, to develop a policy restricting future revenue use and one-time revenue. And they note that in past years, levy growth has been going up and up. You can look at the history in the revenue sheet. But because Templeton levies for the max. I think one year we did some excess levy capacity on purpose, but
23.
if it recommends to treat new growth as one-time revenue and not to use it for the general fund to replace stabilization funds or things like that. So the history is there. But it's really a roll of dice, and it goes against, you know, the advice that we've asked for two separate times and gotten the same thing both times in 2009 and 2000. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Toth, do you have anything?
Nope.
Chair recognizes Ms. Toth.
Just a quick question, based on what Mr. Bennett just said about the recommendation to treat it like a one-time fund. If you do that, does that mean that 70,000 comes out of the base budget? Is that what that means?
We'd have to back 70,000 out of the general fund because I think it's being used right now as regular funding. So yeah, we have to back 70 grand out. Is there any further discussion? Does anyone have a motion at this time that they wish to make, or is discussion complete and we can move to the next agenda item? Right. There is no motion on the floor and there is no suggested motion for this item. We will close action item, or we will close item G, 8G. We will move to item 8H, action reimbursement of legal bills, former town administrator. The email sent by Adam Lamontagne is in your packets. Please note that I did respond to his email stating that the board would have to make a decision on this, and it would not be taken up until until this board meeting, and he accepted that response. So that portion of it is fulfilled. And at this point, if there's any discussion on this, or I will take any discussion or any motions therein.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Curry.
I move to reimburse the former town administrator for legal bills in the amount of $2,616.20 upon the signing of a release.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, moved by Mr. Curry and seconded by Mr. Bennett, to reimburse the former town administrator for legal bills in the amount of $2,616.20 upon the signing of a release. Is there any discussion on this item? Mr. Bennett?
What kind of release are we talking about? Against any future legal action or any resubmission of, you know, additional legal bills that he might have incurred?
Yes. You have it.
I do, it's in there. Let me grab it. I didn't know if you were pulling it up.
Are there any contractual? Are there any contractual, in his regular contract?
In the interest of time, if I might make a suggestion that we move to table this to the end of new business, and then we can finish off the last two items of new business, and then we can.
So moved.
I have a motion to table item.
Second.
I have a motion to table item 8H to and seconded to the end of new business. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. We will table item 8H to the end of new business. Item 8I, discussion and possible action Route 68 tip list.
No.
Huh? Oh, that's one. Discussion and possible action Route 68 tip list, 75% design removal from the tip list. Mr. Bennett, this is your action item. Or
Yes.
this is your discussion item. I apologize.
Yep, no problem. This concerns the rebuilding of Boylston Road, Route 68. It has been on the tip list for 15 years, probably more. There's a few residents here that I know have been on that road since they happened. A lot of years, there was no movement as far as doing the design work, and then we got to 75%. And it didn't go anywhere for a bit, and then we were told last fall in October that the last 25% would be 400,000 plus. And there was some mention of just tell them take it off the stip list, or the town do the work, and in pieces, et cetera, et cetera. So the tip list and then the Templeton being on it, this project was on an agenda in February. I couldn't make that meeting. I made the one last March 19th, and they showed two scenarios, no action. It was just put out there that this was under consideration to either move it to fiscal year 28-29 or put it in the index, which basically go to the bottom of the barrel. So I sent an email asking to this be on the agenda to look at that, to consider this, talk about it. And today I sent an email to Brian Doherty. And I asked if the board met with the engineering firm and come up with some letter of commitment or intent to pursue the funding in a further meeting. Not next fall or anything. I mean, if we have to call a special town meeting, we have to call a special town meeting. Possible action on a final 25% to keep the project on the tip list, the drop deadline for notification of completion of design or commitment to complete design to keep the project on the list, even at 28-29. He answered me today, and I forwarded an email to the board, and I'll just let the people out there know. Hi, Jeff. At this point, we are drafting a list that includes this project in fiscal year 29-30. So they've already pushing it back 2 years instead of just one. Based on the information we have at this point and lack of movement, that seems like the most realistic spot. We do revisit this every year, so this time next year could look different and see 68 move up or down. As long as we don't add something to it off the wall and without letting them know, but if you do that, you will get kicked off. It is good design is being discussed and probably necessary. A letter of commitment from the town would help. There was some communication issues going back to last year or so between MassDOT, Templeton, design a consultant. MassDOT and myself were unable to get updates from the town to design a consultant, and we're worried about the long-term commitment. A renewed letter of commitment would help not only for this year, but for next year when we revisit the tip. Make sure that any letter received is included in the final document. If we could get that by 4:30, and make sure it's included. An emailed PDF of a letter of support on town letterhead would work. We are aware of how bad the road is and are looking forward to seeing it rebuilt, but have to make sure The design schedule meets up with the year it is placed, otherwise the whole region would miss out on funding allocated, not advertised. Probably the most important thing to do at this point is to work with the design consultant to push the process forward. Thanks for following up. Please feel free to reach out, call Brian Doherty. So it looks like they were actually gonna move it back further than what was on the discussion list for the previous two meetings. And I just think this project has been out there. It is, in my mind, just drive it. I believe it's the worst road in this town, bar none, period. It's been there for, on this list, been talking about, the residents have been waiting for this for 15 years, maybe a little longer. I haven't driven up for a long time, ever since Pete and Henry's burn, but people that drive up that road every day, I really feel for them, because that road's a shambles. So I would like to see, and it is $400,000. We do have money sitting aside somewhere. General stabilization is an option. Possible use of free cash next year. Whatever it takes to get this done as a service to the residents. A long time wait. It's an important issue. And the design money is small compared to the funding we are getting from the federal level through the state to get that done.
Jeff, is it the 400,000 part of design?
It's too important a thing to just pinch pennies. The residents deserve this to happen.
Jeff or Bob, is the 400,000 for design work?
Mr. Sosa?
That's what Adam gave us, let's push something.
I'd happy to draft a letter that put all this stuff together if you guys wanted to see it in another meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Bob Sozak, Department of Public Services in Templeton.
Be my guest, Mr. Sosa.
To add to Jeff's conversation, that road was well on a TIF program before my time, and it was bad at that time.
Yeah.
The residents have been so patient and understanding, but they are constantly coming in and complaining, and I don't blame them. We currently spent $460,819.02 out of Chapter 90 for engineering and designing to today's expenditures. We have a balance Chapter 90 set aside for Royalston Road for $69,880.98. The 400,000 that we're talking about, we had a meeting last fall with the engineer and MassDOT. And that one culvert, they consider changing to a small bridge, so it has to be redesigned and engineered. So moving forward, I had a complete streets meeting yesterday. Graceland already put a grant in for Stony Bridge.
Yes.
The next opening turnaround, she can include Royalston Road and might be eligible for funding, helping on that, but again, waiting, and the residents waiting. They're also gonna add into complete streets culvert repairs as well. They're working on it now. I know I had last year, I came to Adam, I went out and pre-marked all of Royalston Road. I think there was like 8 or 9 sections that we were gonna call shim and level to comfort the residents and buy us time while we're waiting. At that time, it was about 75,000. I'm guesstimating it's gone up a little bit. I am currently working on my Chapter 90 plan to propose to you guys. And if you want to include that shimming and leveling, because when we first started the project, well, not me, but the Tempest program out there, it was a $5 million project. So now it's up to 10 million, and it's gonna keep climbing. So all said and done, the town's gonna probably be invested $1 million for a $10 million project. Back then, when it all started with this $500,000, I could have paved the whole road with those prices back then. But I would recommend we shim and level it
and continue moving forward with this tips program. We got too much time and money invested in it.
If you were to put a shim and level of Royalston Road into your chapter 90, what would get pushed back as a result of that?
It would affect the other streets and stuff in town that I was proposing. There's so many streets to do. I kind of do the worst ones. And work with what monies I got. We did get 80,000+ more fair share money. I don't know if you guys saw that. But I want to start concentrating on some sidewalks. We call it Gilligan's Island.
Right. Lord Road, North Main Street, that thing.
I found some prints, and I actually reached out to the engineer for over there, and they still have them, and they're gonna give me a quote and give me an idea what we're looking for price over there. Cause I don't have a step. We were saying 600,000-700,000, but it could be $1 million.
Right.
And then we got Berry Road, which I did talk to Graceland about, and we're currently working on tier 2 for complete streets. And they have a grant of $38,000 that they just about giving away. They handed it out like candy. We have to come up with a prioritization plan for 5 years and 15 projects. Then that'll put us to tier 3, 500,000. But I mean, I feel for these people. I mean, since I've been here, it's been a mess, and it still is a mess. And I like to ease some comfort and buy some time, switching in and level.
Yeah, and also the condition of that road, it makes it harder to plow.
Yep.
You spend more salt up there trying to clean it.
Like springs and.
It's just, again, it's like the oldest project waiting to be completed. And the residents, have been more than patient. You know, and they keep getting told it's in the works, it's in the works, it's in the works. And that's been going on since before I was on the Board of Selectmen in 2011. It's just been there a long time, and it needs to be completed.
Mr. Chair, if I may, like putting something on a tip square, like I said, I wasn't here, I wasn't involved at that time, but Gardner Road would be a good road to put on a tip program, because it's fairly good shape. We just crack sealed it. It's gonna give you that 10, 12, 15 years, as long as you maintain it and make it a complete street. And get some funding. But moving forward, we gotta do something. I mean, I have an employee that, look, he don't even go over that road anymore. It's too rough to beating at trucks and cars and.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I'd recommend that we proceed, like Bob's working on his chapter 90 stuff now, and I think he should include that. And then part 2, I think we should write that letter, draft a letter immediately. That's really what the gentleman asked from Jeff to say, you need to come up for air and tell us what's going on. And we should put that stuff, we say, we will make the funding work some way, like Jeff was talking about some of the ideas for that. We'll say we are dedicating some of our chapter 90 resources to be able to at least keep it drivable, or whatever language, but I think we should do that letter right away.
So that was gonna say that those are the 2 things that I'm taking out of the conversation. I think those are the 2 things. I think those 2 things are just consensus of the board at this point. And I know you volunteered, Mr. Curry, to put that letter together. So if the board is okay, then I would have Mr. Curry draft the letter and bring that to a future board meeting for the board's approval. But then I would also say that if the board also concurs, we should have Mr. Sosik move forward with putting shim and level of Royalston Road at least into his chapter 90 plan for the next fiscal year.
Yes, because we've had, I remember when they were gonna start hauling out of Gavin Road, Bond brought in a bunch of tried to patch up, but it's, it's like patch on top of patch.
We didn't have a paver, we did it with,
So, and I would like, if we don't have that 25% design to justify that cost, I would ask that the engineering firm come in and give a presentation on, what's that 25% involved and to explain, the stuff. Because again, if we meet with them and we have a talk and give them a commitment, we have a month to get that to MassDOT and to make sure we don't get kicked to the back.
Yep.
I mean, the residents, it's
Oh, it's definitely right.
so.
Mr. Chair, I would have it ready for the April 9th meeting.
So the next regular business meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
And that, Jeff, you said it had to be by the end of April? They wanted to see something?
Yes, the next meeting is April 19th, but Brian said they're gonna, if it's like, they get it by April 30th. He would, cause he's the one that basically
Okay.
oversees this stuff. He would,
We'd have it unless there was like, substantial edits. I imagine the board wants to do like a one pager. We're not looking to write a book. We want bottom line up front. We need you. So it would conceivably be sent on the 10th or 11th, and a week of that board meeting.
So do we have consensus on the path forward here?
Oh, I agree with moving this forward. I think we really don't have much of a choice. We owe it to the citizens. I just remember previous discussions, and in the back of my mind, I just don't want MassDOT to look at this and go, oh, look, here in the 11th hour, they're coming up with funding. We're gonna push them way back off the tip list anyway. And I just don't want to see us shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak, and have us drop off the list.
Right.
We've delayed this as far as I think we possibly should have. And this project should have been done. But we've got to move forward. This is the best plan I think we can come up with.
You have one comment from the room that I'd like to take, please. Your name and your name and address, please.
And I'm one of those lucky people that live on Royalston Road.
Ah, excellent.
I guess I'm still confused as to why it's up to the town to fix this road when it's a state.
No, it's a town road, but they put it into a TIPS program, which is funded by federal and state monies. The town is responsible for designing and engineering the road.
In doing everything with the road. I mean, it's Route 68 North. Isn't that a state road?
No.
It's not.
It's just a number, but the town's responsible for the road.
Okay. Well, I thought that the state was responsible. I thought it was a state road.
No,
Well, what I find interesting, the whole TDC area got this, has beautiful pavement. And the Royalston Road, we now, pretty much have to have a four-wheel drive to go up and down our road. It's that bad. We have been waiting a long time. Appreciate it, Jeff, thank you. And unfortunately, we've seen nothing happen. The Layton Water Department have marked where they're gonna move the telephone poles. But, we just are like, we give up.
we have to come up with this 400,000 finished of the design and engineering.
Well, but that's how so many of us feel. They don't care about us on Royalston Road at all.
Oh, we do.
But it's been almost 20 years. 20 years.
That's why I'm pushing.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't call and complain, but I look at it this way, it's legal for us to drive on the wrong side of the road when we have to, because it's so bad. So it makes it dangerous for us to avoid the big, huge dips in the road and whatever else. We literally have to go on the opposite side of the road. Well, we're gonna ruin our vehicle. And when we go through our vehicles, shocks, brakes. And if you're gonna you're not keeping a regular car if you live on that road for 8-10 years. You can't. It beats the heck out of your vehicle. It's ridiculous. It really is.
That's why I'm trying to bring some comfort in to buy.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate it. But we have gotten to the point where we're like, we give up.
We're gonna,
Because every time we talk to somebody, it's like, oh, 2 years later, 2 years, and this is almost 20 years. So, Yeah, we do pay our taxes and it would be nice, but we appreciate that the highway department comes out very often and tries to patch and make it safe. They do, you know, but yes, please, we've been waiting a long time, please.
Thank you. Again, name and address, please.
Casey Burden, 299 Royalston Road.
Thank you.
I've lived on Royalston Road my whole life, and I do want to say I appreciate it because I know, like, growing up, I was on the bus and it was like, who can fly the highest in the seat, right? So it would be really nice to see, and I think it's also worth mentioning that there are multiple individuals on Royalston Road with physical disabilities. So if that could be maybe like another pressure point, just
Writing
for
all
the
these
fact that
Write them all down, try and put it all that in the
it is an
letter.
uncomfortable. I know there is at least one individual that has a pretty painful physical disability, so it is highly uncomfortable and misleading to even hit all of those hard bumps. And I know there are at least 3 people that do have disabilities that do live on Royalston Road. So I think that would be another great point to favor of getting that fixed up again.
One road you don't wanna ride out on an ambulance.
I'll confirm that. Many years out there.
Thank you, Casey.
Unless you're giving birth, that happened in an ambulance on that road.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I may, through you.
Yes, of course.
Joanne, I certainly hear you, and I hope you heard what Jeff presented. It's not us who keep delaying this. We keep getting these notifications through MassDOT where we keep slipping on the tip list. We are trying to fight this. We are trying to move this and see if we can get a better position.
Thank you,
And
Pam.
that's all we can do is try, but we're gonna give it every effort we can give it.
And I appreciate that, and I do recognize that of this board. You know, I'm not criticizing,
Yep.
but, you know, it is a very dangerous road. Bob knows that if you ride down, you know.
Having had the liaison position that Jeff has, I know Mr. Doherty, and when he's giving us this information, he's not happy with it either, but it's the story that he's given and all he can do is share it with us. And I know it pains him as much as it pains us.
Well, again, thank you.
You're very welcome. That's why we're here.
Thank you both. Any further discussion on this? I think we have a path forward.
I think we do.
And it's, and that path forward is via just consensus of the board. There's no votes needed for that, so.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Curry, for volunteering to put that letter together. And thank you, Mr. Sosik, for putting this as a priority on your chapter 90 funds for the coming fiscal year.
Consensus is to move forward.
Consensus is to move forward. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 8J, discussion bylaw on time restriction of town meeting appropriations. Mr. Bennett, this is also your item and you sent the board, it was a sample, I believe, from another.
It's a bylaw that the town of Westminster has.
Oh.
They have a complete,
Nice and close.
financial bylaw. They have some they have some of the best ones. And it's just a sample to give the board an idea of, and basically it is, you go to town meeting and you ask them to appropriate money for something. At the end of 3 years, if that project hasn't moved and nothing's been done, then that money goes back to the general fund. They listed some exceptions to it. For instance, if you have like a contract or something and you use a little bit of the money, you'll get in trouble if you don't have it. And they have it listed there. It's already been approved by the Attorney General. I mean, it's a bylaw in effect. So it wouldn't get done this year. I mean, with this annual town meeting, but it's a possibility we could ask to do it at our next special town meeting. But I just think it's important because there are a lot of things that are on the books, financial wise, that have been sitting there for a long period of time. And it's like, if you're not gonna do it, then put the money back in the general fund and so it can be used for something that will get done. But it's an incentive to move projects along and not let money sit there for years and years and years. Again, there was the exceptions and clauses in there built in that for certain things, you can't take the money away for whatever it was bid for. But for the most part, you don't let money sit there for 10 years and, not be used, because money is tight. And, I don't care if you have a lot of money or a little bit of money, why let it sit there and do nothing when you could use it over here to get something done? It's, and if you go looking at the amount of money, then, these projects that have been sitting there, and sitting there and sitting there. It's, the CPC as an example of Stonebridge grant, and it's like, what it was appropriated for and voted on, it's not gonna get used, so they're gonna claw it back.
Right.
So
Something else.
this bylaw basically does the same thing. And, it came up at our budget meeting, I think, at previous meeting, and I said I remember seeing the bylaw when I was looking up something else, so I went and found one. I forget if that's the one, but I can find a couple more examples, to send to the board so we can, look at it. And again, these bylaws that are on books, they've already been looked at and approved by the Attorney General, so, there's no sense starting from scratch, just borrow.
Imitation
don't-
is the finest form of flattery.
That's right, I will pick their bylaw pocket and we can use it.
Yep.
I just think it's, we're always talking about, oh, we don't have money, we need the money. Well, we got some bunch of money sitting there. Well, when are we gonna do that? I don't know. This would be, and again, you can tell town meeting, so they know, hey, you vote on this, if this doesn't, we don't get this done in 3 years, this money's coming off, going over here, and it'll be available for something else. I just think it's a financial thing that the town needs to do.
I would recommend, so you're the one who had the thought process. I would, I know if it was me, I would recommend that you to spearhead this. I know it's not something, bylaw changes aren't something we normally present at a fall town meeting usually. Usually they're just at annuals, but,
There's been a few done at the, and anything done at an annual town meeting can be done at
Oh, yeah.
any special town meeting. I know there's even some towns have bylaws that this, and this will only be done in an annual, but we don't have that. It's an important thing, and I just think it should be, and I'll track down, find it, if I can find a few other examples, I will disseminate it to the board and then come up with something to present to town meeting.
I love the fact too that it's one of our neighbors. It's Westminster that has it, so it's one of our neighbors that has it, so. Any further comments from the board on this? I think Mr. Bennett's gonna spearhead this and try to move it forward. Seeing none, Ms. Noel, you had your hand up. I'd give you a moment.
Can we, even though we haven't voted on this,
And we're not gonna.
but can we work to identify what some of those funds are?
It wouldn't
They're
be,
listed in the BVA.
yeah, it wouldn't be too hard. You can take a look at the BVA and see what hasn't moved. Yeah, there's not, wouldn't be difficult. I'm sure, I see someone smiling in the back there who's probably already marked off about 14 of them. So, hearing no other, is there any other discussion on that particular item? All right, Jeff,
I will do that.
go nuts, have fun. I know you will.
It's a good idea.
That was a very good idea.
That's or have fun or both.
Whatever.
Okay.
Either one, whatever's good for you. Both if it works, I don't care. All right, I didn't say that, I do care, but. All right, so now, that is the last item of new business, so now we will revert back to the tabled item, which in this case was item H, reimbursement of legal bills to the former town administrator. This is the point that we were waiting on, was the proposed release.
It's a general release.
General release.
Approved by town council.
Do you want to speak to this, Mr. Curry, at all?
No, it's just a release.
Okay, it's just a release. So,
Jeff's have to ask the question, so it basically to his both of his questions, yes. It's a general release.
so it would release both from future indemnity and any future.
There's no legal precedent for us to pay him.
Okay.
This would be a good faith and finalization. Would you like me to make the motion again?
I would, because I believe the motion to table superseded what you were trying to make previously. So yes, I would like a
I
motion.
move to reimburse the former town administrator for legal bills in the amount of $2,616.20 upon the signing of the general release.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Read it.
So we are basically gonna make him the offer to sign this to get the $2,600. And if he says no, then it will come back to us.
Right. That's the way it works. If he has to sign the release by the motion that Mr. Curry has made, he would have to sign the release in order to be paid the amount. If he doesn't sign the release, then the town would not pay.
Adam sent the request to town council with CC'd with his lawyer, and that's what town council had advised to say that there's no legal precedent to reimburse him. However, if the board chose to, their recommendation was to have a release for it.
The bottom line is he is aware. Because it was, you said it was CC.
No, I don't,
I thought you
I
said it
can't
was
answer
CC.
that.
I thought you said it was CC to his council.
I don't know.
Okay. When that-
I don't want to misspeak and say yes or no,
Fair enough.
but yes, it was between lawyers.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, to ask that question.
It's not even a motion yet.
We only have a motion. We do not have a second, so it's not on the floor.
What happens if you don't get a second?
It dies and we continue with the order of business.
I would imagine, could I, Mr. Chair?
Mhm.
Just to further answer your question, if the motion dies, then it's gonna revert. You know, an answer will have to go back to Adam.
Right, we would.
I'll make a second,
Okay.
because it's, that way it'll get to him and he can make a decision and it's not swinging in the
Yep.
breeze for. Because
All right.
it's gonna be up to Adam if he wants to agree to it or not.
We sure?
Well, again, and let me read it through again. So we have a motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Bennett, to reimburse the former town administrator for legal bills in the amount of $2,616.20 upon the signing of the release. He has to sign it. The town does not pay it unless he does. If he chooses not to sign it, no payment. But so basically at this point, it becomes his choice. Assuming we approve this, it becomes his choice.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Earlier in citizen input, the comment that was made, that's valid. There is not a legal precedent for this. We don't have to. I'm making the motion with also with the advice of counsel, if we were to pay him as a good faith estimate and to basically close this relationship.
And to repeat one more time, Adam initiated it.
Yes, to ask for the legal fees, yes.
He initiated.
Yes.
He asked for the.
Yeah, that's in your packet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the email in your packet. He requested the reimbursement of the legal fees. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Mr. Toth?
this release should have been a part of our package. And the dollar amount did not say up to maximum payment of $3,000. It should have the specified amount, the $2,616.20.
Easy to amend, Tim.
Just an observation.
Yep.
Kelsey, please note that the release was added to the documents presented at the meeting, please. Any other discussion? Ms. Noel?
So this is a gift, even though his contract says if he leaves of his own free will, we only are obligated for his salary. And whatever sick time he. That's what it's.
So again, he has requested this. Okay, and the request came in prior to his departure. So we are, and so again, we have responded to the initial email, or the initial note that says, we had to put this in front of the board. I could not do it unilaterally. We received it from him. I put it in front of the board. So now it is the board's decision.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I wouldn't care. I mean, you can characterize it however you want in the public's perception. I wouldn't characterize it as a gift. We're responding to
Yep.
his request, and that's how council
Yep.
said it.
And that's basically the way that I'm looking at it, is we're responding to his request at this point. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the release, I don't think, hi, sorry about that, Ms. Sully. That's okay.
All right, so his contract says he's not entitled to this money. Yet the board is putting it to a vote. And if the board approves this amount, can you explain what a general release really means? Does that mean he cannot come back to the town for absolutely anything ever again? Or does it mean, oh, yeah, I want to come sue the town for whatever he wants to figure out? And I don't mean to be argumentative here.
Understood.
I'm trying to understand what it actually means. So if you could put it out there for everybody to understand what it means, please, because I know from my perspective, if this is you can't ever come back to the town for anything, all right, it's probably money well spent. If this isn't that, this is a gift in my mind, and that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Mr. Chair.
yes, go ahead.
I would characterize it from a legal perspective in the first part of what you said. That the town council said there's not a provision for this. However, if you were going to, then you should have a general release. So it's boilerplate. If you would want me to read it aloud, I can do that as well. Yes?
Yes,
Does
I'm
it satisfy the
trying
room?
to understand what you may or may not be agreeing to and
Okay.
what may or may not be protecting the town, because his contract says he's not entitled to it.
I think it's the former part of what you said, Liz, but I'll go ahead. In consideration of the covenants and inducements set forth below, the receipt and sufficiency of what I hereby acknowledge in my individual capacity and on behalf of my heirs, assigns successors and dependents hereby irrevocably and unconditionally release the town of Templeton and its current and former officials, both as individuals and collectively, employees and agents, from any and all charges, complaints, claims, and liabilities of any nature, known or unknown, in connection with my employment, including any allegation of employment discrimination. It does go on through some legal precedent otherwise, but I think the spirit of it
Yeah.
is what you were expecting.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question.
No, fair question.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, don't be sorry. That was a valid question. Any other discussion on the motion? And as far as the general release itself goes, the motion just says that you have to sign a general release. The language, I think, can be.
I'll amend it to be the exact amount.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, I
amended to
agree,
be
I
the-
agree.
Okay, so I have an amendment to, so that for the general release to read the exact amount, as, in the motion, $2,616.20 to the seconder. So that is accepted.
Yep.
Okay. So as amended. Okay, so we move to reimburse the former town administrator for legal bills in the amount of $2,616.20 upon the signing of the release, and for the release to reflect the exact amount of $2,616.20. Is there any further discussion on the motion now as amended? Hearing none on the motion as amended, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
No.
Mr. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. That vote is 3 yes, 2 no, Mr. Toth and Mr. Bennett, and 0 abstaining at 8:29 PM. Okay. We have concluded new business. We now go to old business. The first item under old business, item 9A, is action warrant article for annual report. This is my action item, and this is to close out an action item that I had on our goals and objectives for this year. The town council has returned my proposed amended bylaws, for the annual town report, and then, for the annual town audit. Let's begin. So this, first of all, to the interim town administrator, I know we had a placeholder for one, in there. It would have to be two.
Yep.
Okay. So the first will be, Article X, or so Article, I guess it would be 7. I don't remember the exact number, but Article X, whatever it is, to amend the town bylaws, section 71.2, financial reports, and 71.3, annual report. In 71.2, town council recommends that, if all reports are to be on a fiscal year basis, they recommend making this explicit, so they have language in there stating that all officers, boards, standing committees, and special committees of the town having charge of the expenditure of town money shall, on a fiscal year basis instead of annually, report thereon. So one little change there. The rest of 71.2 was left alone. They had no other comments. In 71.3, annual report. When we get to publication, so I suggested that it shall be the duty of the board to publish the annual report to be made available to the residents electronically. That's an ad on the official town website on the last Thursday of March of each year, and physical copies to be made available for distribution at town hall in the select board's office. I have there as soon as they are printed. Their town council's comment is, must they be printed immediately after publication? If not, is there a deadline for printing the report? So, I mean, the only thing that I would say there is we could change that to physical copies being made available for distribution at town hall in the select board's office. I mean, I don't know if I'd change that. I mean, maybe to say immediately after publication, but then you have the immediate thing. Holly, just out of curiosity, when you send the town report up to print, how long does it usually take you to get it back?
Trying to remember the days he told me, 15 days, give or take.
Okay, 15 business days or 15
calendar days.
15 calendar days. Okay, so about 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know if we want to change that. I mean, maybe just leave it as soon as they are printed, because in this way it kind of gives us a little bit of a buffer zone there. I mean, we get I don't know, again, board discussion on this point, because we're trying to finalize this so that it goes up to this way it can go onto the warrant.
I would suggest leaving it as soon as they're printed. I mean, I always try to get them as soon as I can, but waiting for that audit, holds it up.
Right. Well, the other thing is the audit's not going to be in this anymore, because don't forget we yanked that part.
Right. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
but then we're going to have to pay additional costs to print it separately. So I'm still going to try to get it in there.
That's it. Yeah.
No, did you hear Holly?
Yeah.
2 separate charges.
I know. I heard it. So I don't know if anyone has a suggestion on that language. Ms. Toth, if you have I'll let you speak, because no one else has come up with a suggestion on that yet.
I appreciate the effort in trying to update the wording. It does not change the situation that happened previously. It needs to be available in a print format on the same day that it's in the electronic format. Anything less than that, it does not meet the requirement and meet what my complaint was, because you're allowing the window to open for that complaint to come yet again. And it needs to be on the same date. If she's got to get it out to the printer 3 weeks in advance to make sure it's back 2 weeks, to give her, that extra week buffer to be able to have it produced and ready. Because if you think about the timeline, right, they can be producing, writing up all their stuff on July 1st, beginning of the new year, July 1st, they can start redoing that. It doesn't take 6 months, 8 months, 9 months to produce it. So I respectfully request that the print date be the same date as the
Electronic posting date.
whatever that date was that you gave as the 4th. Yeah,
Last 30th.
The last Thursday of March each year is
Yes, yes.
There is the Mass General Law that says they shall be printed. And the laws on the books are before
Electronic.
we could go,
Yeah.
or or,
Yeah.
or do this.
Before the website were available.
So.
Yeah.
And remember that town meeting votes on the reports of the boards, committees and stuff. Not everybody does this, surprisingly. I mean, there's some people out there. I can do it. I just prefer.
You like physical paper.
Just the way I is.
I get you.
But, so if you want to go to town meeting and this is probably a long-term thing to try to get people to attend town meeting to see if this is a deal breaker or an incentive if they had the hard copy to take with them to use. But if we're gonna have town meeting vote on the reports of the boards, committees, commissions, etc. of the town, they should be able to see that report. And I remember it wasn't many, but the digital equity plan thing there was places where there's no internet. At least Comcast. And maybe perhaps, I think there was no internet, at all. So I believe, if it's on the website electronically, we should have printed copies. The one part that's kind of hard to do, as far as all the boards and committees and commissions can do their stuff in July.
Yeah.
But the
it's the
accountant's
audit.
report, there are some of those things that they take time to do. There are submission dates and stuff, but some of that data isn't, depending on when it gets done. So it may not be available until September. All the boards and commissions could have that stuff in. So I'm in agreement that if it's on the website, I should be able to come get a hard copy. It's called planning and it's maybe a pain, but that's why they call it work. That's my 2 cents on that.
So you would say to make it read, physical copies be made available for distribution at town hall and the select board's office on the same day as available electronically.
The last Thursday of March.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So if you want to do that, then having it the last Thursday of March is automatically going to exclude the audit from being in there. We're lucky to get it in early April, to get it for the last Thursday in April that we have to now. So it's definitely going to exclude that if you do this last Thursday in March. And we will have to plan on increasing the budget line item to print those extra reports, which we don't have. Or we'll have to do a lot less of the printed version.
Ms. Griffiths?
So Holly, what would you suggest as a guideline, a date?
I
Or
would,
as
I would leave it at the last Thursday in April. Because no matter when we get the reports from the boards and committees, the accountant is going to take longer, finishing out the year, but with Light and Water, the way they do their audit, and we get it the end of March, then it has to go to our auditor and they have to include that in there. Then they have to get it to us till we add to the report. So just won't happen. It'll be a separate print.
So hang on, so Ms. Griffiths?
So,
And then I see Mrs. Graves' hand up. I will take her next. So Ms. Griffiths, go
Ms.
ahead.
Toth, refresh my mind what date you were looking at doing, to see if we can get a compromise date.
It wasn't the date, quite frankly, it was.
Just having them both available at the
Both.
same time.
Both available, and when I went in and expected to have the written copy available, quite frankly, I got attitude. And got told to look at the website.
Excuse me.
No,
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
saying who gave me
Okay,
attitude. I'm
wait.
not saying.
I can't
Wait.
let that go.
We are not going to get into an argument. I refuse to allow it.
What
We will
else?
we will discuss civilly. We will not argue.
I'm not arguing.
So please,
So what I'm saying, I am expressing what happened to me. I was asked, I am trying to answer that. And I went in a few days, maybe a week after it was on the electronically posted. And I didn't want to print 170,
Whatever it was.
whatever it was,
Okay.
pieces of paper. And so, in years past, you go in, it's available. And that was my
So
problem.
So the bottom line, Mr. Chair,
Wait.
isn't date, it's togetherness.
that's right. And so now hang on. It's my bylaw proposal. So if we are going to put them both together, electronically and paper at the same time, is the last Thursday in April reasonable for that to happen?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I would say that I would amend my bylaw to state the last Thursday in April with and then with the understanding that both electronic and physical will be available concurrently. That still gets them out ahead of the annual town meeting with a couple of weeks for people to review them. And I am okay with that.
Can I respond to what was said?
No,
I would
There was an
rather-
accusation made
I would,
and it's false, and I'd like to respond to it. When you came into the office,
I would rather you not. I understand your frustration, Holly, but I would rather you not respond to an accusation in the meeting.
to be clear, I did not say who.
Again, let's maintain civility.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Bennett.
Just another.
Nice
comment.
job, Matt. Good work on that one. Mr. Toth.
Just
Yeah, I'll be
another
right to you,
comment.
Ms. Graves.
Outta here.
I know.
Just another comment. We spoke to this a couple meetings back.
Yeah.
And to Mr. Bennett's point, there is a Massachusetts general law that specifies when these are supposed to be done.
Yep.
I am sorry that Power and Light and Water and Sewer can't seem to meet deadlines. Maybe their contracts with the accounting firms need to be looked at and some dates adjusted. I'm saying that because there's another organization I work with that was trying to get some things out in time for their town meeting. It's the town of North Reading. The individual who put out a very interesting advisory on it was referring to the gray covered and the red covered reports and pamphlets that get mailed to every residence. One copy
The
to
voter's
each
guide.
household. It's the voter's guide, it's the report, and it's the financials. And it's like,
Yeah.
Now, I've contacted him. I don't have an answer back. Is that a bylaw? Is that a town policy? Or is it the Mass General Law? He has not yet responded. It's gonna be interesting to see if he gets back to me and what it actually states. But I think part of it is we have town departments that are running a slightly different thing. I
Mhm.
understand why they're doing it, but I'm questioning why they're doing it.
Right.
When the town is running a fiscal year that starts on July 1st, I think all of our departments should be in line with that.
Yep.
So if we're allowing it to operate on a calendar year basis, I think that needs to have a little closer look taken.
Yeah, and that's something that I would suggest this board do in the future.
Yep.
But for the moment, so right now, for 71-3, I have annual report to be made available to the residents electronically on the official town website on the last Thursday of April of each year, and physical copies to be made available for distribution at town hall in the select board's office on the same day. And that takes, then you're fine with that timeline. That can happen.
the last Thursday in April, yes.
And like I said, that still gives a couple of weeks for people to pick them up and digest them before the annual town meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. I am amenable to that. What's that? And I'm sorry, Candace, please.
I just wanted to say something.
Yep.
That all of the boards and all of the departments got all of their reports in besides the big ones, the light department,
Yeah.
whatever. We all have done it early. We actually got moved up this year. And mostly everybody works on it
Mhm.
right when we get into the new fiscal year, because it's all fresh in our heads.
Yep.
We go back in all our weekly reports, our quarterly reports to make it
Mhm.
happen. So it's not all of, it's only a select amount that's doing it, that's causing the issue. So I don't want anybody to think, you know,
No.
all the departments and all the
No, no.
boards, the bulk of them, you know, like a lot of them, not the, you know, like, cause you have the audit and all that stuff that's what caused the issue. It's not the police, it's not
No.
the fire, it's not the library, it's not
Nope.
the cultural culture, it's not any of us.
Yep.
It's
And-
just these one or two entities that are
And-
causing it, the problem, because we've all been moved up way earlier now.
And we
And
understand,
yeah, so everybody's doing a great job getting it done.
and
And, you know, I think it went really well this year. and we like it earlier because it's fresh in our heads. We want to get it done and over because they always wanted it during the holidays,
Mhm.
and nobody wants to do it during the holidays.
And we understand that, Candace, again, we spoke to the issue with light and water is that
Right.
they're on a completely separate fiscal year as opposed to everybody else, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and then you got
Okay.
the school stuff
Yeah.
too,
And
that's different too.
And that's something completely separate that has
Right.
to be addressed. The school, we can't do anything about.
Right,
They run
exactly.
on a certain calendar, that is what it is.
Right.
But the light and water is something that this board could address in a future time.
Right.
And converting and maybe and getting them to convert from their current calendar year fiscal timeline to the municipal timeline as we currently use. So, but that's a separate discussion. So,
And previously, this was brought up on February 12th recently.
so, is everyone okay with the language for the first? The way that I presented it now?
For 71-2.
Well, 71-2, that one didn't change at all. That one barely changed. 71-3 is where we're at right now is the,
I gotta tell you, it's all over the place. Like we've cut and dissected, so I don't know. I'm gonna trust that everyone came to a consensus.
71-3.
yeah, again, that's to say that the available to the residents electronically on the official town website on the last Thursday of April of each year, and physical copies to be made available for distribution at town hall in the select board's office on the same day. And thereafter, the board will, at its discretion, make copies available for distribution at the annual town meeting. That's just a little tweak of your language there, Holly, but it's basically still allows you to print what you think you're gonna need, and then if you still have copies available for the annual town meeting, you can present them there. If you don't, then then you're safe on that one.
Does it have?
Yeah.
Does it have to be presented at town meeting?
Well, so it says here, the board at its discretion make copies available, so.
Okay, no, I was just thinking of if Tim came up.
There is
with-
a mass general law that says they're supposed to be available for
Okay.
residents at town meeting. And the town managed to get it out in time for town meeting for years.
Right, I was just thinking if Tim came up
So
with
instead of-
something different, if that would cover it.
Well, and in all honesty,
That's what the law.
instead of
says.
changing the board may at its discretion make copies available, it would be will make copies available. We just have to make sure we have enough printed. And I mean, Holly, you've spoken to this before. How many people do you actually get to come to the office to pick them up?
3?
Yeah. If you print 100, you're gonna have extra available for annual town meeting.
Yeah.
So I think that's a safe. So I'll make that change. The board will make copies available for distribution at the annual town meeting as opposed to may at the discretion. We'll vote on this as a package at the end. I'm not gonna do this.
And just to reinforce, the attorneys recommended giving the board discretion to print or not,
Yeah.
and determine based on factors such as copies remaining in budgetary restraints without being subject to challenge for exercising its discretion.
Mm.
So you're exercising your discretion in the favor of
Printing.
printing.
Yeah, and again, Jeff thinks there's an MGL saying it has to be available, so that would be,
It is.
so there we go. So, I mean, that would mean we'd have to make physical copies available, so that covers that particular piece of it.
And the timeline is conducive to not having to do two separate printings of audit and.
The audit would have to be very, very delayed in order to miss that timeline, I believe, right, Holly?
Yep.
The audit would have to be exceptionally delayed to miss the timelines that we have on here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we've
And
ever
it
missed
gives
that.
about 2.5 weeks before
Yeah.
annual town meeting, end of April,
Yeah.
and then usually town meeting is somewhere
Mid-May.
between May 12th and May.
Yeah, 19th. Yeah. So. All right. Anything else on the first section? The second section is very simple. So this is the, to amend the town bylaws, section 28 annual town audit. Again, I suggested that this section is just to be repealed. The only thing that town council said is instead of listing that it is superseded by MGL, the chapters that I had listed there, they said, pull that out, make that part of the article summary for the warrant article, but it doesn't have to be listed there. It's just,
Because we have to do it according to the Municipal Modernization Act
Mhm.
2006. But that bylaw was put in there
Yep.
before that.
right. But-
The town didn't have to do an audit every single year, but the residents said.
We want you to do it.
But then in 2016, the state says we will do it
All 351 of you are gonna do it anyway.
every year.
Yep, so that section of the bylaws was just a straight repeal. For that reason. I don't know that I have to make a motion to have this accepted because we had a placeholder for these.
I'm good with that.
I think because we have a placeholder for these, I think we're okay with acclamation with the language that if everyone's okay with the language, then I think we're okay to place it.
Yeah, because we haven't accepted the warrant.
Right, that's in 2 weeks.
Budget either.
Yeah, and we had a placeholder for this on the warrant anyways, so I don't think we have to accept, I don't think we need a motion. I think it's just a matter of consensus of the board with the language and walk away. Any other?
Yeah.
I should say walk away, but
Can you send this to me electronically the way it should be worded?
yes.
Okay.
In fact, I will try to do that before I leave here this evening.
Okay.
I have the file, I just gotta pull it and I just,
That's definitely a shall and not a may.
yeah. So, all right.
I was confused.
So do we have consensus on that?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your collaboration on that in order for me to at least say that that was completed for my goal objectives for while I was here. 9B, action warrant article for the state audit. Mr. Toth, you have presented what you think should be in there, and I believe we also have a placeholder for this in the warrant as well.
Yes, we do. Back and forth with Andrew Carden from the state auditor's office. The last email I had from him, and this was contingent on what we come up with our list of work. It was a $10,000-ish number that got thrown out. So the language that I put in for this article was to approve the expenditure of up to, but not to exceed $12,500. No sense to commission the state auditor to conduct a forensic audit town's finances over the past 5 years with all unexpected funds allocated for this purpose deposited back into the general fund. That would be
I just have one question on this. Doesn't say where those funds are gonna come from. Usually there's something that says coming from free cash or it's coming from whatever. That's the only question that I have.
okay. What I did was looking in years past, this is how we worded some of these that have passed muster through legal and through
Okay.
the AG.
So it doesn't need to state where we find the money. It just states where
We can add
appropriating it.
that.
That's the only question I had, because I feel like we usually state where we're appropriating the money from.
I agree with him. So, I mean, I've seen articles both ways. I mean, it's basically approving the expenditure. I mean, there's risk in it because you're not identifying where it's coming from.
Right.
Like, is it from, taxation, or is it coming from free cash or another source? But I've seen articles read like that, just they vote for the expenditure.
I mean, at the end of the day, general fund is all taxation dollars.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the money, then you can't, I mean, it's an approved expenditure, but if you can't pay for it.
I mean, I wrote, good work, Tim, residents are happy, but where are we getting the funds is crucial. Why should we? I really want this to go through, so with money tight, I think we should find the source of the revenue to make sure we get this done, because I know that there have been residents in the fall throughout asking for this. I know there are.
And I'd be willing to bet that this would be a situation where if we wanted to take 12,500 just from general stabilization to cover this, I bet you the residents would go for that.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yeah.
I apologize, it wasn't at the last hour of the budget meeting.
Yeah.
Did we approve the full 50, I think it was 49,000 for the advisory committee?
We did not amend that number.
No,
It was the full amount for advisory, right?
Yes.
I mean, what if it was a 10,000-ish number, what if we decremented, I mean, it's for an audit. I mean, I think within advisory, we've had to cut from a bunch of different places, but that reserve account remained the same. I just looked at this lump sum disallowed, it's at 49,000. But I mean, if the advisory agreed to it, that's not a bad place to pull it from for a financial reason. Just a thought, just throwing wargaming out there if we want to make it happen. I think.
Mr. Chair, so what would have to happen, Mike? You'd have to go to advisory first. You could ask them, right?
Well,
Can't
no, I
just
think
put
we're
it
talking
on.
about next year's budget in this case, taking the 12.5 from their fund from next year's budget and giving it to this particular item. I
Yeah,
think.
either way.
So what would be the time?
Hang on, Justice, I'll let you.
Yeah, no, Justice Graves, Deputy Assessor.
Yeah, that's fine.
My question, I'm glad that somebody brought up about the
Reserve.
appropriation, well, about the appropriation in general. Typically, when something is appropriated at town meeting, the reason why you identify the source of income or where it's coming from is because that gets reflected on the tax rate recap sheet that's tabulated, whether or not you're using it from a stabilization fund all the way down to free cash or the general fund. So, my only caution would be if you were using it out of the general fund for fiscal year 2026, then you would have to make sure that that lines up with your revenues. If it doesn't line up with your revenues, and we go to try and set the tax rate, then that would be illegal because it wouldn't match up.
Just to follow up, this is an article for this town meeting,
Yeah.
so FY 26, that's why I make the recommendation that, if both the committee and the board agreed to decrement that, that's where we would find that. I mean, we're supposed to be finding that stuff on that budget Saturday, and we wind up coming out of there with some understanding where we're doing some horse trading. That's what I'd make a recommendation. I would think that the finance committee, the advisory committee would look at that as a win because we're getting, the spirit of that full audit.
It's a one-time fund. It's not gonna come back every year.
But, on the other side, then you are reducing your reserve fund to take care of contingencies. I'm just trying to make it work.
Justice, can you repeat the illegal part?
Well, so through the chair, so if you appropriate more at a town meeting than what you have estimated for
Right.
your general revenues plus your tax levy, you cannot submit a tax rate because it is in excess of what you were allowed to tax on the residents. Because anything outside of your revenues, like motor vehicle excise, supplemental tax, that all goes back onto the residents on property taxes. Well, if you don't have the revenues to cover that, then it goes on to the levy limit. If you are in excess of that, that's not allowed under Proposition 2.5. That will get kicked back and we won't be able to do anything. It won't allow it.
Even if it's $12,500.
Yeah.
Correct, because that's.
We
the
didn't
law.
account for that.
Right, that's what, so, and you're saying by going to advisory, that would account for that, legal, legal.
Yeah.
The only other thing
trying
that
to find a way to-
the only other thing that I might suggest is instead of presenting this at the annual town meeting, would be to present it at the fall town meeting and be able to use certified free cash. Whatever that number comes back to be.
So, Mr. Chairman, ask another question.
We have till our next business meeting, to individually.
So maybe, Mr. Toth, maybe to put some thought to it and come back at the next regular business meeting with a suggestion on it. Is that agreeable?
Absolutely.
Aren't we doing the final warrant at the next one? Don't we just put it on there?
So put it on there for the moment.
Or we can
And
edit.
we can edit. I think is that agreeable, Mr. Toth?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Put it on there and we can edit, and if we need to, we might, if the board needs to at that point, they
It
can.
can always be changed on town.
That's
meeting
correct.
floor as well, too.
Yeah,
so-
it can be, that's true.
This is not meant to be a controversial question at all.
Yeah,
I'm afraid it's going to be.
oh boy.
So, the last, at the budget.
Yeah.
The budget meeting, right, coming out of that,
Yeah.
Mr. Kaplan said that an updated version of the budget would be created, right? And I would think having that updated version of the budget would be pertinent to this conversation. So trying to put that as sweetly as possible.
Yeah,
when, how,
When will this budget be available?
yeah, thank you. But what's the?
I don't know what tweaks that you made, but I mean, it's basically just needs the corrections based on budget Saturday.
And that's what I'm asking for is when, in hindsight, I guess I should have put my hand up going, can you just put it up here? And as you're making the changes, make the changes. So somebody doesn't have to go back through later on. Didn't happen, lesson learned. But that I think is very important to these conversations, to have an accurate, updated version.
Yep.
On the TV, yeah.
I would ask Holly to work with the town accountant to determine the changes that we needed to make out of the budget hearings and try to strive to that for the next board meeting. Again, I'm just trying to help along as much as possible.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I know I had notes from that. No, Gail also.
Gail did. I believe she sent them over.
I did.
Yeah, she sent them over. Were you included? Holly, you were included on that.
You don't even have to. You're the best.
Wow. Okay. All right. Any other discussion on this for the moment? All right. 9C. Discussion EPA update on 24 Holman Street. Ms. Griffiths, this is your item.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to table this until the next,
Regular business meeting. I have a motion to table this at item 9C to the next regular business meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Curry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to table item 9C to the next regular business meeting on April 9th. How do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Curry?
yes.
Ms. Griffiths, and I vote yes as well. It's 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining to table at 9:01 PM. Item 9D, action re-advisory draft letters. Again, Ms. Griffiths, this is your item.
So I broke my packet up from the advisory committee. You all got letters.
Yep.
To recommendation regarding House Bill, so this one. House Bill 3678 is two, and then two on that, right, two. So they voted at their meeting. To recommend to us to write letters, we went back and forth. And they already sent theirs, and they're making a suggestion to us. To follow suit, and they put a mock letter in with the idea that we could tweak it. To our liking, or just leave it as it is. So I'm coming to the board to see their thoughts. I think there's more detail. This is just one aspect of what they're looking at. If it's a mock-up of, the bill 3701, I actually have a copy of that, and there's a lot more verbiage in there. But after sitting with the planning board and looking at different things, they, sometimes they say too much language will trip you up. So I'm not sure. I would like to know what the board thinks. This targets paralysis in the plant, which is 24 Holman. But there are other things that residents are concerned about that could potentially come into town in the future that they put in a citizen petition regarding. So I can give, if you want, I can bring this back and give you some more language. Or if you have any suggestions, I'm open. I'm just not sure if this is the complete intent of what the bill originally was trying to accomplish, which was all kinds of forms of toxic waste.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So I read through all of or at least I read through all of them. I think it's important to be succinct, as Terry was saying. A lot of the detail and definitions, I don't think needs to be, we want to tell them what we want. And we're doing it on behalf of the residents. Because it was, on page 2 of that draft letter says at that time, 2 articles were passed providing I would make sure that it is apparent at that time. 2 citizen petition articles were passed providing for a 1-year moratorium and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure if we need to add more in there. I would definitely tweak the letter to have the spirit of the people. It's coming from the select board, so you get that automatically, but it's the spirit of the people that you're trying to contain. And I think it should be at least, if it's got to be two pages at a maximum, I would try and trim it down, and have it be focused to 3678. If they're aware of it, then they can look it up, but we should be looking at the bill rather than trying to educate them within a letter of support. The letter of support educates them at the same time because they're referencing something that we want them to be in favor of. You see what I'm saying?
I'm just confused on succinct and more language.
Yeah, I mean, we go in to a lot of the why, and I don't think you need to go into a lot of the why as much as you need to specify they need to pay attention to the content of 3678. Which is really what the spirit of the
I'm wondering if they're building it up because it was 3701 and that went to the House basically to die because of language. So I'm wondering if we need to, be specific to what the residents want.
Who's the bill sponsor? Haggerty, is that right?
No, Zlotnick and Whips. Zlotnick and Whips are the sponsors. And in the spirit of the citizen petition that's coming on the warrant, there's more language than just pyrolysis. I don't think I have a copy of it here.
So, I'm gonna make a suggestion here. It sounds like that these need more review than we're gonna be able to get done this evening. So I would suggest that in fact, I will move that we table this item to the regular business meeting on April 23rd in order to give more time for the board to review the language and determine how they want to respond. So that motion I will make that motion.
Second. Yep.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to table item 9D to the regular business meeting on the 23rd, so for the board to review. Is there any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to table, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That motion is 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining at 9:07 PM.
That's that one.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question. I didn't get to in the discussion. What is the actual House bill? Is it this current session's?
3, 6, 7, 8.
All right.
The previous one looked like this, like.
Oh, section, so it's, okay.
So this is,
Yeah,
this is the new one right here.
I'm gonna ask,
If we're in the 194th.
I'm gonna
That's
ask
the new
I'm gonna ask you to take those questions.
All right.
Thank you.
This is the.
All right. Having completed the business of the meeting,
Oh, we didn't get to the next letter.
so the motion was to table the entire action, the entire item. So
There's more letters.
the motion was to table the entire action. So the action is tabled. Because it sounds like it's gonna be more review on all of them. So the
The
motion. is to-
pilot monies, you're saying the pilot monies and then so I grouped them into that and then the pilot the next one was money.
Yeah, so the motion was to
Parents
table,
and communities and the pilot money.
the motion was to table everything. So the business meeting on the 23rd for the board to review and discuss and to determine what they needed for edits on all
Oh, I
of them.
thought it was just on that, but you're saying it's on the pilot monies as well.
Yeah, because everything was grouped as one item, so it was a motion on the item.
I
So
would
the
have
item-
broken it out. I'm sorry, I didn't know what I was voting on, because I would have broken it out and finished with the other ones, but if the board feels they need more time to understand the pilot money letter and the comparison community. Okay. That's it.
All right.
I'm a
So-
attention.
At this point, the agenda says next is item 10, the executive session, and then 11 is board comments. I'm going to take those out of order. I'm actually going to go to board comments first, and then we'll go to the executive session. So at this point, does anyone have any comments they wish to make this evening? I'll start on my left with Mr. Toth.
Yes. I have 4 quick items. Our Roselli audit contract is coming up for renewal in May. I'm hoping we're moving forward with that. I know the last meeting, there were some discussions and comments that, you know, it may be too quick or too soon, but the last 2 MMA conferences I attended, there were a number of auditors. They all understand how this works out, and these companies all understand it's a competitive process. And they're all, from my understanding, in a position where they're prepared to engage. I just hope we're moving forward with that. This past week, I saw some news that actually was troubling to me,
Yeah.
and it was regarding the health fentanyl bill and the vote that our national senators, Warren and Markey, actually voted against it. I found that extremely troubling and disturbing. And, you know, if anybody has not yet written to them saying, what were you thinking? I would urge you to do so. You know, we're working very diligently. We're going through Gamma right now with our opioid process that Representative Zlotnick, I apologize, has worked so hard to put us together where we have the conglomeration of all the area communities. Well, we're actually moving that bar forward where a lot of communities have the money, but what are they doing with it? And at risk of losing it, at least we're working as a collaborative unit to move it forward and get some benefit. Strong work on John's part, you know, very, very appreciative of what he did. And Mike, you and I sat with him a number of years back with the initial meeting, and he had me a hello.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a couple key dates coming up. This Saturday, 50 years ago, we started the withdrawal of combat troops out of Vietnam. 50 years for those that were keeping score. What a big change how the country has turned around welcoming our vets home from places far, far away and how we've treated them. And a lot of the Vietnam vets, my heart goes out to them, man. You guys were given a huge discredit when you came home. Not here. This vet still remembers each and every one of you. And right behind that, in April, we have the 250th anniversary of the shot heard round the world. There's a whole bunch of stuff planned in Lexington and Concord. That'll be the, I believe it's April 19th. It's the Saturday. Or, yeah, the Saturday. There's a whole bunch of things going on. I will try to get some more info as that comes out. It's just now starting to really flow. And that's going to be huge.
There
So
goes my commute.
well, it's a weekend, so it shouldn't be too bad.
I think the president's coming in.
He may be.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, little old Massachusetts, here we are, first in the nation again. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Toth.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry.
Thank you.
Mr. Bennett?
I only have one thing to say, and that is to thank you for stepping up and serving. And for people out in TV land who like to, you know, call the board clown, whatever, I don't care what you say. You're perfectly right, you're perfectly legal. But if you're gonna criticize the selectman, particularly, you know, a selectman who says, all I heard out of him was this or that. You need to sit at the table and make the decisions and deal with all the stuff you have to do. Before you should make a statement like that. All I heard was point of order, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever sat here? Have you ever done this? on the select board. If you haven't, then you shouldn't say that. If you want to criticize the board as a whole because you don't like their votes and their actions, that's fine. That comes with any board or anything, but to point somebody out and to say they, all I heard them do in their term was this or that. Come sit at this table, get your name on a ballot, get elected, come here and show everybody what you would do. So I thank you for your time on the board. I thank you for your time on the advisory committee, and I voted no not to accept your resignation because I did it one time way long ago and the whole board voted not to accept it because they wanted to try to talk me into staying, and I was going to do that, but you're resolved to leave, so it's your decision. You want to leave, but I thank you for stepping up and serving, because it's a little bit harder than some people think it is. And there's just things you gotta do and you gotta vote on, and you don't always vote on things, at least from my perspective, I don't always vote on everything that I 100% agree with, but I kind of forward look to, sometimes you gotta vote to get it done. Sometimes people look at our votes, and if they went and looked up the details, they'd know why it got voted that way or why we had to do it that way, because if you're looking for common sense and the easy way, don't look at government. Just don't. So thank you for your time and your effort.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Amen to that.
Ms. Griffiths.
Thank you again. Well said, Jeff. Thank you. I just had one thing, if we could, talk about the role of clerk. I said I had an idea, and I feel like in our read files and in our emails, for instance, Ms. Toth sent an email earlier, about the BVAs. I'd like to discuss if on a future agenda to add correspondence on the agenda. And if sometimes this correspondence, fine. If not, no correspondence today. But if there is, for instance, select board read file, i.e. advisory committee, then the clerk could be responsible for that. And that's all I'm asking. So would it be to put on a future agenda? I tried to find a role of the clerk and I just ran out of time. And that's another thing for the folks out in, as Jeff would say, TV land. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to have to do your own responsibilities and then to add all this on top of that,
Yeah.
I just, again, I appreciate it. You're a dad, you have your circumstances, and sometimes you don't have the real estate in your brain.
Thank you, Carol.
So thank you.
And just for your information, I think that if you look to our select board operating
Yeah, I
policies,
was
you'll
trying to
find,
find
you'll find that that's probably where you're gonna be looking to make changes in order to talk about what you're doing. So just as a thought process for you.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
So obviously tonight's bittersweet in my case. I thank everyone on this board for any help that you have given me over the course of time. It does not go unnoticed. I have probably asked each and every one of you questions at one point or another. And you've all been more than willing to answer and provide your guidance. So I thank you. And I appreciate everything that you have done, and I appreciate your words this evening. And on that note, I am gonna, that will be the end of it. Oh, wait a minute, hang on, huh?
No, did Mike get a chance to say?
Mike said, Mike had nothing this evening.
Pass it again.
So hang on. So now, having completed all regular business of the board, we will shortly be moving into executive session per Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Reason 2, discussion contract negotiations with non-union personnel, interim town administrator, and Reason 3, strategy collective bargaining with Police Local 155, Dispatch Local 155A, AFL-CIO Union, and Local Union 39, Highway Buildings and Grounds Sewer Union. We will return from the executive session solely to adjourn the regular business meeting. Our next regular business meeting will be Wednesday, April 9th at 6:30 p.m. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Go second.
I have a motion to enter into executive session per Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, discussion contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the interim town administrator, and executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, 21A3, strategy recollective bargaining agreement with the police local 155, dispatch local 155A AFL-CIO union, and local union 139, or local union 39 highway buildings and grounds and sewer union. Say that 3 times fast. Is there any discussion on the motion to enter into executive session? Hearing none on the motion to enter into executive session, how do you vote, Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That motion passes at 9:20 PM. We will enter into executive session after